Chapter 1905, Spark 2. Life on the planet Lada is very simple. Even though they sometimes need to go to other planets to buy daily necessities, they still rely on wandering merchants who occasionally visit. Some villages have their own spaceships, but the energy consumed by flying to other planets is too expensive for those who grow crops to afford. But now, the shadows of 3 spaceships appeared at once. This was definitely not a wandering merchant or a local. Ahsoka Tano hurriedly ran outside. The 3 spaceships were getting closer and closer. With the help of the Force, she could see clearly from a distance. They were 3 Gozanti-class armed cargo ships, silver-gray paint and gear marks on the side. This is the spaceship of the Galactic Empire. Ahsoka Tano pulled her hood to ensure that the Togrutan tentacles on her head would not be seen. As long as the tentacles were hidden, the rest of the Togrutans would look almost like humans. The main reason is that she is not sure whether she is on the list of wanted Jedi Knights in the Galactic Empire, so she must be careful. The 3 Gozanti-class armed cargo ships began to disperse and fly in different directions. One of them suddenly flew towards the village on her side. At this time, the residents of the village also saw the Imperial spaceship descending from the sky. They walked out of their homes one after another and looked up at the 64-meter-long battleship, which also had 4 TIE fighters attached to its belly. A group of Imperial stormtroopers ran down. They were wearing white polymer alloy armor and full-coverage helmets. The deliberately designed eyepieces and vents gave the helmet an angry expression, although sometimes this made the helmet look a little funny. But the blaster rifles in the hands of these stormtroopers were not just for show. An officer disembarked from the spacecraft. He waved his hand, and the loudspeaker on the spacecraft immediately sounded a loud voice. All residents, come and assemble immediately. Under the threat of these soldiers and warships, all the residents of the village came out and gathered in the open space. Ahsoka Tano also walked over and stood in an inconspicuous position on the edge of the crowd. She saw that the little girl from earlier was also there. In the little girl's hands, she was holding a circuit breaker and a roll of energy transmission tube tightly. The little girl's eyes were full of fear when she looked at the Imperial soldiers and battleships. She even trembled a little, hiding behind her parents with her eyes a little red. Imperial residents of the planet Lada, today is your lucky day. The Imperial officer picked up the device in his hand and shouted loudly. His voice was conveyed to every corner of the audience through the loudspeaker of the spacecraft. After the Imperial Ministry of Agriculture's screening, the soil environment of the planet Lada is very suitable for growing high-energy crops. From today on, all your crops must be replaced with high-energy crops. Throw away your worthless weeds. It is an honor for you to grow high-energy crops for the Empire. Ahsoka Tano frowned. She knew that high-energy crops are a type of crop rich in nutrients and calories. There are many types and different tastes. In the past, the Galactic Republic and the Galactic Empire would produce high-energy crops in large quantities and then process these crops into military rations. Basically, this kind of military ration only requires a small piece, and when poured with water, it can immediately ferment into enough food for a person to consume for a whole day, which is very convenient. But Ahsoka Tano looked solemn. High-energy crops had such high energy, and they were not created out of thin air. During the growth process of these high-energy crops, they would consume the nutrients in the soil at an alarming rate. Basically, after a few planting cycles, a piece of farmland would directly turn into worthless dirt. At this time, if you want to continue planting, you must fertilize the soil. However, the cost of buying fertilizer is substantial. Ordinary chemical fertilizers cannot restore the vitality of soil depleted by high-energy crops. Despite this, the price of high-energy crops remains high. According to current market prices, even with the cost of fertilizer, growing high-energy crops is still quite profitable. The Empire is vast. Not every planet has the conditions for centralized industrial agricultural production or the installation of a climate simulation system. Therefore, the Imperial Ministry of Agriculture travels across the galaxy to organize official agricultural production on planets with suitable climates. The production method is basic farming. An Imperial officer continued, "Now, All of you, as family units, come to me to receive the seeds of high-energy crops. Then go back to your fields, clear away all the weeds, and plant the high-energy crops. That's not a weed, it's our food ration for this year. A farmer argued loudly. A stormtrooper walked over, dragged the farmer out, kicked him hard in the stomach, and then hit him in the face with the butt of his rifle. The farmer's face was suddenly covered in blood, and he fell to the ground unconscious. This bloody scene immediately frightened everyone present. They stood there, not even daring to breathe. "It is your duty to feel sincerely honored when called upon by the Empire," the officer shouted. "Yes, you should feel honored. You must feel honored. Otherwise, those who disrespect the Empire are not qualified to be its subjects. Now, take action." Inside the spaceship, several robots emerged, carrying large bags of high-energy crop seeds. The farmers had no choice but to line up, trembling, and take a small bag of seeds from the robots. The officer continued loudly, "Every bag of seeds has a harvest quota. If you fail to meet the harvest quota, you will be severely punished by the Empire." When it was the little girl's family's turn to collect the seeds, the officer noticed the mechanical parts in the little girl's hands and said coldly, "Why is a child holding contraband?" "Sir, this is not contraband. These are parts we use to repair farm machinery," the child's father quickly explained. "How do I know whether you use it to repair agricultural machinery or to make weapons that harm the Empire?" The officer snorted and waved his hand. A nearby robot immediately snatched the parts from the little girl's hands and threw them aside. The robot's action was not gentle, and it knocked the little girl to the ground, causing her to burst into tears. Her mother hurried over, picked up the little girl, covered her mouth to prevent her from crying, and looked at the officer with pleading eyes. The officer ignored her and waved his hand, signaling them to leave. Finally, it was Ahsoka Tano's turn. She hesitated, unsure whether she should go or not. The officer saw her and said sternly, "You, come here quickly." End of chapter. Chapter 1906, Spark 3. Ahsoka Tano had no choice but to approach. She didn't dare to use the Force openly, and her abilities weren't refined enough to subtly influence the officer, let alone the Imperial stormtroopers standing beside her. The first generation of Sparty clones, produced at the end of the Clone Wars, had mostly either perished on the battlefield or been decommissioned. With the reduced pressure of frontline combat, the new generation of Sparty clones had an extended growth cycle, making them much more mentally stable. Consequently, the willpower of these clone soldiers was significantly stronger than that of ordinary people, leaving Ahsoka Tano at a disadvantage. The officer scrutinized Ahsoka and barked, "What are you standing around for? Go get your seed." "Sir, I don't farm and have no land," Ahsoka Tano replied calmly. "You don't farm? Then what are you doing on the planet Daka? The Empire does not support idle people," the officer retorted. "I'm a mechanic. I specialize in repairing agricultural machinery," Ahsoka Tano explained, pointing to the parts the robot had just taken from the little girl. "These parts are for repairing agricultural machinery. Without them, the rat family can only rely on their hands to grow high-energy crops for the Empire." "Humph, take me to your workshop," the officer demanded coldly. "Here." Ahsoka Tano indicated her workshop obediently, then asked, "Can I take these two parts with me?" "Oh, go get them yourself," the officer replied contemptuously. Ahsoka Tano led the officer and a few soldiers to her workshop. The officer gestured, and the Imperial stormtroopers immediately began ransacking the place. After a thorough search, a soldier reported, "Sir, there are no suspicious items. Agricultural machinery is indeed being repaired here." "Be honest with me. Do your job well," the officer ordered, before walking away. In the following days, the planet Lada, now under Imperial control, underwent significant changes. Imperial officers enacted a series of regulations, including bans on gatherings of more than 3 people, night curfews, food rationing, prohibition of alcohol, restrictions on the opening hours of bars and restaurants, and organizing farmers into shift production. The management was entirely militarized. This new way of life was utterly unacceptable to the formerly free people of Lada. However, seeing the Gozanti-class armed cargo ships parked in open spaces and the TIE fighters patrolling the skies, the people could only harbor their dissatisfaction in silence. Ahsoka Tano tried to remain as inconspicuous as possible, keeping a low profile and avoiding any contact with Imperial soldiers. But tensions continued to rise. After the first batch of high-energy crops matured 3 months later, the Imperial officers confiscated the entire harvest, leaving the farmers with only a meager amount, barely enough to stave off starvation. They were immediately ordered to start the next round of farming without a day's rest. This caused great dissatisfaction among the people. Some began to question the Imperial officers, asking why they had put in so much labor, planted so many high-energy crops, and completed their tasks, only to receive nothing in return. Their reward from the Empire was a brutal beating. Others, more gently, asked the Imperial officers if they should distribute some fertilizer to restore the land's fertility, ensuring a good harvest for the next round of sowing. But the officers refused, telling them not to think so much and to return to work immediately. Experts from the Imperial Ministry of Agriculture would determine whether fertilization was necessary. Under the force of the Imperial Army, the people could only comply. After a long day of labor, the villagers dragged their exhausted bodies home, preparing for another round of work the next day. That evening, Ahsoka Tano visited the village bar. The usual laughter and chatter were absent. Instead, everyone sat in pairs at their tables, numbly drinking bland beverages. In one corner of the bar, 4 or 5 stormtroopers gathered, drinking and laughing boisterously. They kept a watchful eye on the patrons, and if they saw more than 3 people at any table, they would immediately approach and start trouble, often flipping tables over. Once the stormtroopers left, a few murmurs began to fill the bar. A strong young farmer approached Ahsoka Tano and whispered, "The Empire doesn't treat us like humans at all. We've made plans to blow up their spaceship. Ashra, will you help us? If you could modify some machines for fighting." Ahsoka Tano interrupted him. "It's best not to do this. Even if you blow up this Gazanti-class ship, there are 2 others elsewhere on the planet. These ships patrol everywhere and won't stay in the same village for too long. If you do this, it will only cause the Empire to send more reinforcements. Maybe next time, it will be Star Destroyers." "No, I can't stand it anymore. Those Imperial dogs bully us too much." The young farmer clearly saw Ahsoka as an ally. "We can only try to coexist with the Empire. This is our only way. At least, we can survive," Ahsoka Tano advised earnestly. The young farmer left, disappointed. 3 days later, Ahsoka Tano received news of the farmer's death. It was said that he got drunk on his own stash of wine and then smashed an empty bottle on an officer's head. He was executed on the spot by the stormtroopers. Afterwards, Imperial officers hung his body at the entrance of the village, announcing that the farmer had broken the prohibition on alcohol and was plotting to rebel. Ahsoka Tano looked at the young man's corpse with a livid face and returned to her work shed, her body trembling slightly. She went to a cave behind the shed and began to meditate. "Execute Order 66. Execute Order 66. Execute Order 66. The lingering nightmare haunted her heart again. Ahsoka gasped and opened her eyes suddenly, realizing that the sky was already starting to darken. During her failed meditation, she had fallen asleep unconsciously. New seeds were distributed, and the farmers on the planet Lada began a new round of work. This time, they noticed that the seeds seemed different from the last batch. When they asked the officer about it, he coldly replied that it was a new variety invented by the Ministry of Agriculture and had nothing to do with them. End of chapter. Chapter 1907, Spark 4. One day, a little girl came to Ahsoka Tano with news that the Milano family in the village had moved away. They had acquaintances on the planet Salist, found jobs, and were planning to relocate there. Planet Salist? That's not part of the Principality of Dawn. Ahsoka Tano frowned. Shh! The little girl quickly raised her index finger to her lips. My mother only told me this after the Milano family moved away. You must not tell others. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. You shouldn't either, Ahsoka reassured her, gently patting the little girl's head. Despite her calm demeanor, Ahsoka's mind was filled with doubts. She noticed that the Imperial officers seemed indifferent to the immigration and departure of villagers. If they were here to organize production, shouldn't they be more concerned about people leaving? With their current high-pressure policies, Anyone with the means and a spaceship would surely leave. How would there be enough labor then? These questions remained unanswered, and Ahsoka could only continue her low-key life. More than a month later, after the second round of high-energy crops began to sprout and grow, the farmers on Lada discovered something was wrong. The high-energy crops planted this time had extremely developed root systems that penetrated several meters underground to absorb nutrients. These roots even grew out of the ground, covering large areas of farmland, preventing even weeds from growing nearby. In the fish ponds next to some farmlands, a large number of fish died. The Imperial officers coldly instructed the farmers to chop up the dead fish and use them as fertilizer. Moreover, these crops required more nutrients and more watering. To take care of them, the Imperial officers began to increase the farmers' workload. Overwhelmed, the farmers once again wanted to resist. It was said that resistance movements had also broken out in other villages on the planet, but they were suppressed by the Imperial army. In her own village, Ahsoka Tano, to prevent the farmers from losing their lives in vain, suggested that everyone should be passive and slow down their work. This new high-energy crop required a lot of effort to maintain. If the farmers started to slack off, the output would decrease, buying more time for everyone to rest and preventing severe soil damage. However, this illusion of non-violence and non-cooperation was soon shattered by the Galactic Empire. People began to notice that the Imperial soldiers were organizing land reclamation teams to clear land around them, even using primitive but efficient methods like burning land to create more farmland. What did this mean? It showed that they didn't care about the damage to the soil caused by these high-energy crops. There was no plan to distribute fertilizers to farmers. All they wanted was to drain all the nutrients from this planet and then leave. No wonder they didn't care if people immigrated and left. They had never intended for this to last forever. Ahsoka Tano returned to the cave behind her work shed to meditate, but she still couldn't calm down. That night, there was lightning and thunder in the sky, accompanied by heavy rain. Ahsoka Tano did not return to the work shed. She sat at the entrance of the cave, letting the cold wind blow against her body, staring blankly at the sky as lightning flashed continuously. At that moment, she suddenly frowned. The Force told her that there was a young life struggling near her work shed. She quickly jumped up and ran towards the shed, moving as swiftly as the wind. She found the little girl from the Larder family crying and running towards her work shed in the heavy rain. Ahsoka Tano quickly embraced her and took her back to the shed. "Sister Ashla, please save my father," the little girl cried. "What happened?" Ahsoka Tano asked urgently. Through the little girl's sobs, Ahsoka finally understood the whole story. As the Imperial army sought to extract every ounce of value from the planet Lada before abandoning it, violence erupted in many places. Uprisings became increasingly frequent. Their village had been relatively peaceful until now. They had only gone to negotiate with the Imperial army, hoping for some means of survival. However, the Imperial officers reacted as if their tails had been stepped on. Enraged by the petition, they arrested all the farmers who had come to plead, including the little girl's father. Ahsoka Tano remained silent for a long time. The little girl, disheartened, whispered, "I'm sorry, Sister Ashla. I'll go to Brother Hoban and ask." She broke free from Ahsoka's embrace and tried to leave. "Wait a minute," Ahsoka Tano said suddenly. "I'm going to get something. Wait here for me." She returned to the cave, reached its deepest part, and unearthed a small box hidden beneath grass and soil. Inside were various items: a Jedi Padawan decoration, an old Galactic Republic military communicator, a DC-15 blaster rifle, and an ordinary metal lightsaber hilt. Ahsoka picked up the communicator, which had its communication function destroyed, and pressed the button. The small projection device displayed the sinister image of Anakin Skywalker, repeatedly saying, "Execute Order 66! Execute Order 66!" With a snap, she crushed the communicator into pieces. Ignoring her bloody palm, she hesitated over the lightsaber hilt, but ultimately left it. Instead, she took the DC-15 blaster rifle used by the clone army during the Galactic Republic era and slung it over her back. Returning to the work shed, she said to the little girl, "Let's go and save your father. Sister Ashla." The little girl's eyes sparkled with hope. Ahsoka Tano moved forward resolutely through the thunderstorm. She saw a fire burning in the direction of the village from a distance, but her eyes were now filled with determination, no longer clouded by confusion. If this is destiny, then I can only resist to the end. Lux Bonteri wrapped his black cloak tighter around himself, blending into the darkness as much as possible. He stood on a hill, overlooking the brightly lit city below, Izzy's city, the capital of the planet Onderon. This beautiful city, which had endured war and was later rebuilt, now seemed full of hypocrisy to Lux Bonteri. His mother, Mina Bonteri, had once fought to the end for this planet, and what was the result? She was publicly beheaded by separatists. Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. He turned around to face the dozens of shadowy figures behind him, his expression growing increasingly ferocious. End of chapter. Chapter 1908, Spark 5. Boom. A violent explosion erupted in a hospital in Izzy, the capital of the planet Onderon. The blast obliterated the outer wall of the hospital, flames spreading instantly and a powerful shockwave scattering doctors, patients, and medical equipment. Screams and wails filled the air, creating a scene of utter chaos and devastation. Broken bodies and wreckage were everywhere, painting a hellish picture. But this was just the beginning. A group of armed men dressed in black stormed into the hospital, killing everyone in sight. They were cold-blooded and ruthless, showing no mercy to anyone, whether old, weak, women, or children. If they could move, they were shot. The security forces of Izzy City rushed to the scene immediately, but the militants did not flee. Instead, they engaged in a fierce firefight with the security forces, displaying extreme ferocity. The exchange of fire lasted for 10 minutes, resulting in the deaths of several security personnel. As the Onderon Royal Guard stationed in Izzy City was about to arrive, the terrorists, seemingly aware of this, dispersed on hoverbikes. They rushed into the city, blending into the crowd and disappearing without a trace. This attack resulted in the deaths of 277 civilians in the hospital and 16 security personnel. The entire planet Onderon was in shock. Shortly after, a video began circulating on the planet's holographic network. In the video, a young man in a combat uniform holding a blaster rifle stood with a sinister expression, exuding a ferocity and violence beyond his years. Maybe you are still shocked by what happened at the hospital, so let me give you the answer now. Yes, I did it, the young man said coldly. This is just the beginning. The planet Onderon and its current government are guilty. You first surrendered to the separatists, then allowed the Galactic Republic to burn, kill, and loot the planet. Now you are kowtowing to the Galactic Empire. Yes, you are guilty. Guilty. His voice grew more excited. Do you want to know who I am? Before you ask, think about whether you remember the man who fought for Onderon to the last moment, only to be betrayed by you and handed over to the separatist robots for public execution. Counselor Mina Bonteri. Yes, Mina Bonteri. She is my mother. She is my mentor. She is the last monument on the planet Onderon. I am Lux Bonteri, revolutionary, avenger, resistor, and these partners behind me are the saviors of Onderon. We are the Mina Revolutionary Army. We will lead you to resist the tyranny of the current government and guide you to freedom. Lux Bonteri's expression was ferocious and excited. He opened his arms, his entire body shaking with fervor, but his words were full of conviction. Now I formally order the current government of Onderon, King Ramses Dundup, to step down immediately. Return the power of the planet to the rightful leader who will guide us to freedom, Mina Bonteri. The image froze and then gradually disappeared. Your Majesty Dundup, we have sent people to track the signal, but it was transmitted from the outer orbit of the planet. They must be on a spacecraft, but they are no longer there, said the Izzy City security officer to King Ramses Dundup. The old body of King Ramses Dundup trembled slightly. His heart was filled with anger and sadness. He is right. Mina Bonteri was indeed a hero who fought for our planet until the last moment. But, overwhelmed with emotion, King Dundup had to pause and take a breath. But doesn't this brat know that it was precisely because he blindly followed the rebels that he was used by Saw Gerrera, ultimately harming his own mother? How can he have the nerve to call out Mina Bonteri's name? The security officer exclaimed. The fact that he can say such things shows that his psychology has been completely distorted. When his mother was still alive, he secretly collaborated with the rebels, disregarding the bigger picture. He used his mother's information network to support the uprising, providing intelligence to the army for his childish and ridiculous so-called ideals. In the end, his clumsy tricks were discovered by the separatist General Kalani, which led to the sacrifice of Councillor Bonteri. What will such a person do now? It's no surprise. He didn't even spare his dead mother, and he is still using the reputation of Councillor Mina Bonteri to carry out terrorist activities. Such people have no humanity. Ramses Dendup roared. But this is also very dangerous. Councillor Mina Bonteri has indeed been portrayed as a hero on our planet. Now that Lux Bonteri has stepped forward as the descendant of a hero, I'm afraid there will be many people supporting him, the security officer said. Alas, I know. Ramses Dendup sighed. Several years before the outbreak of the Clone Wars, Sanjay Rash of the planet Onderon colluded with the Separatists to launch a coup, putting King Dendup under house arrest. He then accepted investments from the Interstellar Banking Clan and Tyran Heavy Industries to build a large-scale shipyard on the satellite to produce behemoth-class battlecruisers. Due to Sanjay Rash's greed and tyranny, widespread resistance was aroused, and a rebel army led by Saw Gerrera and Stila Gerrera emerged on the planet. The Galactic Republic took the opportunity to infiltrate Onderon, allowing Anakin Skywalker to contact the rebels, paving the way for subsequent counterattacks. However, the Separatists sent a super-tactical droid, General Kalani. As soon as this intelligent super-tactical droid took office, he used a strategy involving the Thor mecha experiment to lure the ambitious Saw Gerrera, severely damaging the rebel army. Later, he used cunning means to capture those who continued to provide intelligence to the rebels, including Councillor Mina Bonteri. Councillor Bonteri was soon killed, and Onderon entered a state of martial law under General Kalani's rule. Eventually, the Galactic Republic pushed the front to Onderon and launched a large-scale attack with Wilhuff Tarkin as the commander-in-chief. During the attack, Saw Gerrera took the opportunity to collude with Tarkin, launched another coup, and declared himself king of Onderon. The Dexon satellite was captured, the Separatist forces were defeated, and Onderon was finally occupied by the Galactic Republic again. However, Saw Gerrera's reign was short-lived. He was quickly killed by the Dream Sisters. Even though the Republic later defeated the Dream Sisters, the situation remained chaotic. In the midst of this turmoil, the old king, Ramses Dendup, once again stood up. He walked to the front and announced that he would once again serve as the king of Onderon. He declared that the three previous regimes of Sanjay Rash, General Kalani, and Saw Gerrera were illegal, and that Onderon would break away from the Confederacy of Independent Systems and rejoin the Galactic Republic. As he had promised Stila Gerrera, he would stand at the forefront and use his last breath to protect Onderon. When the government of Onderon was re-established, the planet was plagued by internal and external troubles. After the previous three regimes, the administrative management mechanism on the planet had completely collapsed. Officials appointed by the three regimes were everywhere, administrative powers were intertwined, and there were overt and covert conflicts between them. The scene was one of utter chaos. After Ramses Dendup ascended to power once more, he swiftly employed drastic measures to purge the disorganized and redundant administrative agencies. He took firm control of the planet's largest armed force, the Onderon Royal Guard, and began eliminating dissenters within the military. This was a perilous move. Any misstep could have sparked another coup or even a mutiny. However, Ramses Dendup's political acumen far surpassed that of Sanjay Rush and Saw Gerrera. He quickly decided to request the Galactic Republic's fleet to stabilize the situation. To achieve this, he abandoned Onderon's stance of planetary neutrality and declared war on the Federation of Independent TAF Systems and the Dawn Planet, which was still a member of the Federation at the time. With the might of 5 Jaeger-class battlecruisers dispatched by the Galactic Republic, King Dendup swiftly completed the internal cleanup of the planet. He arrested tens of thousands of individuals, primarily warlords and high-ranking officials, who had exploited the chaos to push for independence. He eradicated all the disorderly bureaucrats appointed by the previous 3 regimes in the most expeditious and uncompromising manner, across the board. Anyone associated with the former regimes was immediately removed and sent to a specialized department for political review. In line with his commitment to participate in the war, Dundup conscripted 700,000 soldiers, sending them to the front lines to combat the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Facing the relentless robot army of the Confederacy, fewer than one-third of these soldiers returned to Onderon alive. This series of actions led to Ramses Dundup's image collapsing entirely in the eyes of the Onderon populace. He was now seen as a militaristic, dictatorial tyrant. But Ramses Dundup's actions did not end there. Under the pretext of war participation, he accepted substantial support and loans from the Galactic Republic, using them to build industrialized farms and heavy weapons manufacturing industries on the planet. These supports and loans came at a high cost, often mortgaged with the planet's output or exchanged for real power within the planet, such as senior positions in key departments. The most detrimental were the loans to large enterprises, effectively handing over control of the planet step by step. From another perspective, this also allowed Onderon to achieve significant development during a chaotic and desperate time. Later, when the Galactic Republic fell and was reorganized into the Galactic Empire, Ramses Dundup seized the opportunity. He pledged loyalty to Emperor Palpatine and welcomed the presence of the Imperial Intelligence Agency. The Galactic Empire was naturally pleased with this allegiance. However, their satisfaction did not prevent them from exploiting Onderon. The Imperial authorities conducted a ruthless plunder of the planet, with Ramses Dundup becoming an accomplice. He actively assisted the Galactic Empire in exploiting his people, increasing their workload, reducing their wages, and providing the Empire with everything they desired at extremely low prices. In just over a year, Onderon's economy, which had shown signs of recovery, plunged back into depression. As a result, King Ramses Dundup became a despised figure among the people of Onderon. His name was cursed with the most venomous words, and his ancestors were damned by the populace. People are ruthless, but there is nothing they can do. The Galactic Empire is naturally very satisfied with King Ramses Dundup, who is so obedient. If anyone attempts to seize King Dundup's throne now, the Galactic Empire will be the first to refuse. This is why Ramses Dundup's throne remains firmly established to this day, unshaken by any opposition. In fact, those who curse King Dundup fail to realize that although he aids the Galactic Empire in exploiting the people of the planet, he does his best to leave them a way to survive. He has been fighting against the Empire's complete domination, ensuring they do not take full advantage of the situation. Moreover, many of the support and loans he received from selling his sovereignty to the Galactic Republic were lost due to the Republic's collapse. This means there is no need to repay or hand over sovereignty, and the planet's infrastructure has greatly improved as a result. Despite appearing autocratic and authoritarian, Ramses Dundup has always been diligent in cleaning up the planet's bureaucracy to ensure the clarity and efficiency of government agencies. Even if these departments seem to be aiding evil in the eyes of the people, they must admit that they are indeed very efficient. No one knew at this time that before Ramses Dundup ascended the throne for his second time, he had already chosen Stella Gerrera, who truly cared about the people, as the true leader of the planet. Dundup was willing to be the martyr himself, paving the way for Stella Gerrera. Currently, the power of the planet Onderon is too small and too weak to make any significant choices in the turbulent galaxy. If Stella Gerrera were to become the ruler now, it would only lead to her destruction. Therefore, Dundup could only bear all the infamy, silently carrying the planet forward and trying to lay a better foundation for Stella Gerrera. But now, King Ramses Dundup's plan has been dealt a blow. Senator Mina Bontry's son, Lux Bontry, has returned with a group of terrorists. End of chapter. Chapter 1909, Brother 1910 Sparks, 6. Ramses Dundup spoke with grave seriousness. We cannot allow Lux Bontry to continue his rampage. This terrorist attack has shown that he has completely lost his humanity. We must take immediate action to control him. Order the security forces to establish a special department dedicated to hunting down Lux Bontry and issue a global wanted order. Yes, Your Majesty, the security minister responded promptly. In addition, the royal guards must also mobilize. Form a separate quick reaction force. The moment Lux appears, they must move to apprehend him immediately. Do not give him any chance to escape. Understood. Now, convene a meeting with the propaganda minister and other key officials, King Ramses Dundup commanded, his experience evident in his decisive actions. He knew that dealing with terrorists like Lux Bontry required more than just military might. Once the officials from several other important departments had gathered in the conference room, Ramses Dundup began to outline his strategy. The propaganda department was to intensify its efforts, highlighting the heroism of Mina Bontry while condemning the evil of Lux Bontry. It was crucial to ensure that support for Mina did not translate into support for Lux. Additionally, efforts to comfort the populace and provide swift resettlement and compensation to the victims of the terrorist attacks were to be prioritized to prevent widespread panic. However, the meeting soon hit a significant obstacle: funding. Establishing a new security unit required money. Equipping the royal guards with sufficient fighter jets and airspeed craft for rapid response also required money. Deploying an intelligence network, monitoring terrorist locations, and recruiting informants demanded even more money. Furthermore, funds were needed to house and care for the victims, rebuild damaged hospitals, and strengthen propaganda efforts. But where would the money come from on the planet Onderon? The Galactic Empire's exploitation of Onderon had been severe, draining almost all of the planet's production capacity. To maintain basic living standards for his people, Ramses Dundup often diverted the meager financial resources to essential livelihood projects. Additionally, to prevent the Empire from completely plundering Onderon and leaving it in ruins, Ramses Dundup had to bribe imperial officials, whose insatiable greed was a constant drain on the planet's resources. Faced with the terrorist threat posed by Lux Bontry, Ramses Dundup found himself without the necessary funds to respond effectively. With no other options, he was forced to seek assistance from the Galactic Empire. However, the Imperial Intelligence Agency, which had an office on Onderon, was highly unpopular among the planet's inhabitants, making it nearly impossible to gather intelligence in such a hostile environment. As for the Imperial Army, they dismissed the situation. To them, a terrorist attack that resulted in over 200 deaths and involved a relatively small group of terrorists was insignificant. The Imperial Army had far more pressing concerns across the galaxy, dealing with large-scale uprisings and riots affecting millions or tens of millions of people. Meanwhile, Lux Bontry, cloaked in black with his hood pulled up to conceal his face, sat in the corner of a bar in Izzy City. If the authorities of Onderon knew that their most wanted criminal was casually drinking in a bar in their capital, they would be beside themselves with disbelief. After a while, another person mysteriously walked in and sat across from Lux. This person raised his hood, revealing his face. It was surprising to see him, as he had met with King Ramses Dundup just yesterday to discuss how to destroy Lux Bontry. This man was the planet's chief security officer. Lux Bontry was not polite. He took out a money bag from his pocket and pushed it across the table. The security officer's eyes gleamed with greed. He quickly opened the money bag, a crack awe, and saw the Empire credit ingots inside. According to the face value and fineness marked on the credit ingots, they were cast from the finest rare metals. These rare metals themselves held the same value as the face value. A small piece was equivalent to 10,000 Empire credits. After weighing the bag, the officer estimated there were more than 20 ingots inside, enough to buy a small frigate. The security officer beamed and quickly put away the money bag. Dundup had a meeting with us yesterday and arranged a lot of means to catch you. It's simply whimsical. I raised the money with him on the spot. He doesn't even know where to put that old face of his. Thank you for your hard work. You still have to work under such a bad old man, Lux Bontry said calmly, a stark contrast to the arrogant demeanor he had shown in yesterday's video. That madness and chaos were deliberate acts. In reality, Lux Bontry had been on the run ever since his mother, Mina Bontry, was killed. He had discovered that the beliefs he once held dear, freedom and equality as preached by Guerrera, were all lies. After driving away the separatists, So Guerrera had hurriedly ascended the throne, living a life of luxury. The rebels were a farce, the Galactic Republic was a farce, separatism was a farce, and the subsequent Galactic Empire was the biggest farce of all. At that time, Luke's Bontry, struggling to survive in the sewers, felt that the entire galaxy was his enemy and had betrayed him. He wanted revenge on everyone around him. However, his perspective changed when he accidentally met a BC man. The Bis people were rarely seen outside the inner ring of the Milky Way, as their planet was one of the developed planets in the core circle. They were not known for their combat skills, but for their intellect, engaging in management and scientific research. Therefore, the Bis rarely ventured out. The BC man who appeared before Lux Bontry looked dusty, clearly having undergone a long period of exploration and trekking. When Lux Bontry walked into a bar, intending to exchange some stolen change for bad wine, the BC man noticed him. He approached Lux and said that the flame of revenge in his heart had attracted him, and this flame had the potential to burn the entire galaxy. Initially, Lux Bontry didn't want to pay attention to the nagging BC man, but the BC man was generous and bought him a glass of good wine. Although this kind of wine was nothing to the former congressman's son, for Lux, who now lived like a sewer rat, it was the best delicacy. Lux felt that the BC man might be wealthy, and seeing his short stature, thought he might be able to steal a fortune from him, so he pretended to be friendly to get closer. But after a few glasses of wine, Lux discovered that the BC man's language skills were truly an art. His words were always just right and to the point. Soon, Lux, who could only be regarded as a dandy, was completely captivated by the BC man's eloquence. When the BC man learned that Lux Bontry was the son of Mina Bontry, a former member of the planet Onderon, he laughed proudly. He told Lux about his mother's political prowess, something Lux had never fully appreciated, as he had never been interested in studying and was always full of unrealistic fantasies. Lux Bontry was unaware of his mother's significant influence and the power she wielded. A BC man enlightened him, explaining that his mother, Mina Bontry, had been a formidable force in the Galactic Republic's parliament, even after joining the Confederation of Independent Systems. Her peace bill had caused the Galactic Republic, their enemy, to hold several days of meetings, with the final response delivered by Palpatine, the Speaker of the Republic at the time. Within the Confederation, Mina was one of the most influential members of Congress. Her words commanded the attention of even the most powerful figures, such as Count Dooku and Tang Xiao. The BC man told Lux that with such an outstanding mother, he deserved to enjoy the top power and in the galaxy. He questioned why Lux was now living like a sewer rat. Lux responded that his mother was dead and he had nothing. The BC man laughed, explaining that Mina's death meant that everything she had could now become Lux's strength, which was a good thing. Seeing Lux's disbelief, the BC man offered his help for a few months. Using his incredible wisdom and means, the BC man helped Lux regain the money that had been confiscated by rehabilitating Mina Bontry's reputation and appealing to the authorities. He eliminated all traces, leading everyone to believe that Lux had traveled to the Outer Rim and would never return. This operation made Lux an invisible person. Various money laundering methods were used to turn Lux's newfound wealth into untraceable funds. During this time, the BC man taught Lux how to become a conspirator, instilling valuable knowledge and helping him sort out Mina Bontry's relationships. Finally, the BC man took Lux to meet several of Mina's former political allies, who now held high positions, including the planet's chief security officer. Surprisingly, these individuals agreed to support Lux's actions, thanks to the BC man's excellent persuasion. Lux began to re-examine his mother's legacy, realizing that she had been far more powerful than he had ever known. Under the BC man's guidance, Lux started to secretly build his own criminal organization on the planet Onderon, growing rapidly in skill and influence. After half a year, the BC man informed Lux that he had to leave because a terrifying entity was pursuing him. Lux asked who this person was and if he could hire a killer to eliminate them. The BC man replied that Lux was not yet qualified to know who this person was. However, he assured Lux that when he was strong enough to take over Onderon, he would naturally learn the identity of this pursuer. Lux then asked for the BC man's name, but the BC man said it didn't matter, as they would likely never meet again. He promised that when the time was right, someone would come to contact Lux, and he would then learn the BC man's name. Before leaving, the BC man advised Lux to establish his base of operations on the Dexon satellite. The Dexon satellite was once the production line for the Dawn planet's Behemoth-class battlecruisers and also served as a large-scale military base. This base was originally constructed on the foundations of the Mandalorian Crusaders' previous military installation, making it exceptionally fortified. Even after the Galactic Republic completely destroyed the Dexon satellite in battle, remnants of this military base still remained. This made it the perfect location for his secret base. Additionally, the BIS informed Lux that there was a cemetery of a former Sith monarch on the Dexon moon. Finding this cemetery could grant him immense power and wealth. Over the next 3 years, Lux Bontry became the shadowy force behind the planet Onderon, waiting for the right moment to rise. Our plan is progressing smoothly. The old man Dundup can't hold out much longer. He's paying the price for his own foolishness, the chief security officer said with a laugh. He always told us he would make sacrifices, bear all the planet's burdens and sins himself, and then let his heirs save Onderon. What a joke! It's truly laughable. Lux Bontry sneered. Are these so-called beliefs worth anything? He asked. They're worthless. He never gave us any opportunities to profit. If we acted selfishly at work, he would reprimand or even fire us. So, the so-called beliefs he preached are only worth a meager salary, the chief security officer replied. Chapter 1910, Spark 7. It doesn't matter. Dundup has no idea how much power we have. Heh. Lux Bontry laughed sinisterly. Okay, during this period, let's have some fun with this old man Dundup. When I find the Sith Lord's tomb on the Dexon moon, that's when he will die. The chief security officer also smiled proudly. Excuse me, sir. You have been playing hide-and-seek with us recently. Don't worry, I will arrange this game to be spectacular. The Galactic Empire must also make arrangements. They can neither refuse it directly nor send troops to interfere. It is best to ask that old man Dundup to send some more bribes, and remember to keep the records of these bribes. Save it for me, Lux Bontry said. Don't worry, I have already made arrangements. I have a friend in the Imperial Security Department. He will help us arrange it. They like this kind of thing where they only take bribes and do nothing, the chief security officer said. Lux Bontry stood up, came to the window, and looked at the busy street, clenching his fists tightly. Sooner or later, everything I lost here will be recovered. The planet Onderon is mine. His expression gradually became ferocious. He did not feel sad for his mother at all, nor did he repent of his sins. There was only greed and ambition. A brilliant explosion erupted in the silent space, and a 600-meter-long Geth dreadnought was shattered into countless fragments in the violent explosion. The red fire flashed past, and then countless parts and debris were ejected from the pressurized cabin, gradually scattering in the silent universe. On the bridge of the Imperial-class Star Destroyer Chimera, the fleet adjutant, staff officer, intelligence officer, and other department officials applauded. Although the Imperial military has very strict regulations on discipline, they still couldn't help but express their sincere admiration in the face of such a victory. This victory was truly hard-won. Surrounding the wreckage of the destroyed Geth dreadnought were the wrecks of 2 other Geth dreadnoughts, as well as the wreckage of more than a dozen small and medium-sized Geth battleships, including Geth cruisers over 300 meters long and Geth frigates over 100 meters long. This was clearly a Geth medium-sized battle group. Ever since Gilad Palaeon discovered that the Geth had mastered suspected warp navigation technology during the battle on the planet Pheda, the Galactic Empire immediately expanded its defense lines and strengthened patrols and reconnaissance of the rear systems. Although warp navigation is also a method of super-light navigation, its speed can only be described as turtle-like compared to hyperspace channels. However, the Geth are mechanical life forms, and they have no lifespan limit at all. They can completely use warp speed to launch a surprise attack over several months, years, or even decades. The course of warp sailing is not restricted by hyperspace channels at all. Currently, the Galactic Empire has no means to detect warships traveling at warp speed. Therefore, there is no other way but to arrange fleets to patrol everywhere. And although the Geth warships are small in size, they are very powerful in combat. They do not need to consider living facilities or supply and life support systems. Therefore, under the same size, the combat effectiveness of the Geth warships far exceeds that of the Galactic Empire's warships. Under such circumstances, even if the Geth were harassed by a small fleet, it would still require considerable strength for the Galactic Empire to eliminate them. In fact, such harassment has already begun to occur, and there is a lot of it. On the planet behind the defense line of Theta, Geth warships have appeared one after another in the past 3 years, and the range of these warships has become wider and wider, making the Galactic Empire's defense more and more difficult. This is obviously the result of the Geth's continuous use of small, agile fleets to probe and harass the Empire's defenses. For the past 3 years, small fleets have been harassing the rear of the Galactic Empire through warp-speed navigation. These small groups of harassing fleets have left the Galactic Empire's patrol fleet in a state of distress. Deploying too few warships results in defeat, while deploying too many consumes significant resources. The Empire has suffered defeats in many places. When the patrol fleet fails to intercept, Geth warships invade the planet's surface, killing local residents and turning them into corpse puppets, causing serious chaos. To suppress the Geth and the zombies raging on the planet's surface, the Galactic Empire must deploy its army to these planets. This necessitates subsequent transportation and supplies, complicating the dispatch of the Imperial Army. Despite these challenges, someone has led them to defeat the seemingly invincible Geth. Their strength is not superior. They have only 1 Empire-class Star Destroyer, 1 Vindicator-class heavy cruiser, and 10 Night Watch-class frigates. According to the Galactic Empire's assessment, this fleet is insufficient to defeat the Geth and is at a disadvantage. Yet they won without losing a single ship. Their commander perfectly predicted every maneuver of the Geth fleet and made the most effective responses. Under his command, every warship was positioned to evenly share the enemy's firepower, interspersing at high speed to disperse the opponent's forces, disrupt their formation, and then, in seemingly chaotic maneuvers, surround the ultimate target and strike with precision. This was achieved despite the Geth warships generally having better maneuverability than the Imperial warships. This is not something particularly worthy of celebration, the fleet commander said calmly. He was seated on the main seat of the bridge, his appearance obscured by the high back of the chair. Only his straight gray Imperial Navy uniform and neatly combed black hair, slightly higher than the back of the chair, were visible. What is certain is that the Geth invested considerable troops in these harassment operations. They aimed to tire us out, and they succeeded. The commander's voice was smooth, elegant, low, with a hint of magnetism. Every syllable he uttered was clear, powerful, and courageous, full of infectious energy. But under your command, we successfully defeated the Geth battle group without any injuries, the adjutant exclaimed. I am even looking forward to the next battle. I'm glad to see you so enthusiastic, Adjutant Sandus, the fleet commander said, turning his seat. His blue-skinned face revealed a pair of scarlet eyes full of wisdom. Chapter 1911, Spark 8. Under your command, we are confident of defeating any enemy. Adjutant Sandus shouted. Colonel Thrawn. This fleet is exhausted. It only appears unscathed. Let's return, replied Thrawn, the commander of the Galactic Empire. With his blue skin and blood-red eyes, he was unmistakably a Chiss, much like the renowned separatist general, Severance Tan. Despite looking to be in his early 30s, Thrawn had already risen to the rank of captain in the Imperial Navy, commanding a patrol fleet. Yes, sir, the adjutant responded loudly, showing no discomfort at being commanded by a Chiss. This was almost unheard of in the Galactic Empire's army. Since its establishment, Emperor Palpatine had subtly promoted human supremacy. Although not explicitly stated, and despite some Imperial media advocating racial equality, non-human races were gradually being pushed out of the Empire's core. Non-human races found themselves with dwindling job opportunities. Those who remained faced significant criticism, workplace difficulties, and social isolation. In street altercations between humans and non-humans, the Imperial military police invariably arrested the non-human individuals, often sending the humans home without consequence. Businesses owned by non-human races were also suppressed. They struggled to receive orders, buy raw materials, and retain human employees. They were frequently investigated by the Imperial Tax Department. The military was no exception. When the Galactic Empire was first established, it dismissed all non-human soldiers, citing the need for uniformity in uniforms, weapons, and rations. In such an environment, Colonel Thrawn's rise to command a patrol fleet was nothing short of miraculous. It also spoke volumes about his exceptional abilities and emotional intelligence. The patrol fleet he commanded was initially inconspicuous. After his appointment, Thrawn went to the battleship repair shop at Kuat Power Dock to piece together his fleet. The flagship, the Imperial-class Star Destroyer Flamethroat, was originally a Knight-class Star Destroyer. After the Clone Wars, the Galactic Empire Navy began producing Victory II-class Star Destroyers. The Knight class, being less efficient and twice as costly, was phased out. Damaged Knight-class Star Destroyers were brought back to the Kuat Power Dockyard for modernization and refitting into Empire-class Star Destroyers. The designs of these two classes were nearly identical, making modifications convenient. Colonel Thrawn chose this battleship as his flagship. He also found several prototypes of the Night's Watch-class frigates. These prototypes, built during final experiments, had less advanced electronic equipment compared to the current Night Watch-class frigates. However, Thrawn valued their flexibility and powerful firepower, so he included these prototype ships in his fleet. Thus, his patrol fleet was formed. After commencing his mission, Captain Thrawn continued to modify the fleet while engaging in battles. He tried. Colonel Thrawn utilized every means available to procure the necessary parts from the Imperial Navy's munitions department, gradually enhancing the fleet's combat effectiveness. He was constantly engaged in combat missions, and through his exceptional command abilities and profound wisdom, he earned the respect of all the officers and soldiers in the fleet. Initially, these officers and soldiers were dismissive of Colonel Thrawn, a Chiss, looking down on him due to his non-human race. Despite the Chiss being almost identical to humans, except for their skin color, the idea of human supremacy had become deeply ingrained since the establishment of the Galactic Empire over 3 years ago. The officers and soldiers refrained from openly showing their disdain for Colonel Thrawn, adhering to the strict military discipline of the Imperial Navy. However, this situation did not last long. From the outset, Thrawn led the fleet to continuous victories, eliminating pirates and hunting down roving separatist forces without any losses. For the grassroots naval officers and soldiers of the Galactic Empire, their primary concern was survival, not the identity of their commander or their enemies. Colonel Thrawn ensured their survival, earning their trust and loyalty. When they received the mission to confront the Geth fleet that had suddenly appeared through warp speed, everyone was filled with despair. Previously, unless a sector-level fleet was dispatched to encircle and suppress them, small patrol fleets encountering a Geth battle group were either destroyed or severely damaged. The Geth warships were highly maneuverable, possessed powerful firepower, and had extremely thick shields and armor. Their only drawback was the limited range of their weapons and the relatively slow rate of fire and projectile velocity. However, no Imperial Navy commander had been able to exploit this weakness. Instead, the Geth warships would quickly close in with their superior speed and decimate the Imperial fleets. The morale of Thrawn's fleet, which had been bolstered by his exceptional command skills, plummeted once again. Some even began to believe that the death order from the Imperial Navy Department was due to Thrawn's non-human status. But Thrawn remained calm, assuring them that if they followed his instructions, they would all survive. And then, a miraculous victory occurred. This victory elevated Colonel Thrawn to a godlike status among the officers and soldiers of the patrol fleet. He commanded the fleet to an Imperial naval base near the planet Ethor, where they temporarily stationed and applied for material supplies and battleship repairs. He granted his soldiers a break, allowing them to take turns on vacation. However, Thrawn did not join them at the spaceport to drink and indulge. Instead, He stayed on his flagship, the fire-breathing Star Destroyer, listening to music that was very different from the style of the Galactic Empire, while perusing a thick document titled Culture and Art of Dawn Planet. Chapter 1912, Spark 9. I will definitely be able to overcome all obstacles and pay attention to the glory in the storm all the time. Use those injured hands to create a better future and infinite brilliance. Impassioned music continued to echo in the office. Colonel, there is a military order from the Navy Department. A new combat order will be issued this afternoon, Adjutant Sandus reported as he approached. This is a song sung by Alia Isabella, the superstar of Dawn Planet, called Glory in the Storm. Colonel Thrawn remarked, seemingly lost in thought. This song is quite old. It was composed a long time ago and is no longer popular, but as a star with official backing from Dawn Planet, Alia Isabella performs this song at almost every concert. Adjutant Sandus scratched his head and glanced at the screen in front of Colonel Thrawn. Are you looking at intelligence on Dawn Planet again? We shouldn't be fighting them anymore, right? After all, they have surrendered. I find this planet very intriguing, Thrawn said lightly. Planet Dawn is remote, yet economically developed. The Galactic Empire's influence barely reaches them. It's also a human-dominated planet. Given time, they could become one of the wealthiest families in the Galactic Empire. But their culture is filled with a sense of crisis. Why? This may be because of Tang Xiao's ambition, the adjutant suggested. Look at Dawn Planet before and after the war. They have expanded significantly. Now they can be considered a powerful warlord. You are half right, Sandus, Colonel Thrawn replied. Tang Xiao has ambitions, but they go far beyond mere expansion. His imaginary enemy has always been the Galactic Republic, and now his target is the Galactic Empire. Their sense of crisis stems from the strength gap between them and us. In other words, they have already planned to go to war with the Galactic Republic. Why would they? There is at least 1,000 times the strength gap between Planet Dawn and the Galactic Empire, Sandus frowned. I haven't figured this out yet, so I'm trying to read more about their literature and art. Even myths and legends, Colonel Thrawn said, turning back to his book. He read it meticulously, not missing a single word. After more than 10 minutes, a sneer gradually appeared on the corner of his mouth. Interesting. He closed the intelligence window in front of him, stood up, and said, Inform the fleet's mid-level and above officers to stop taking leave and return to the battleship within an hour to prepare for a combat meeting. Yes, sir. In addition, ask the General Staff and Logistics Department to immediately prepare a plan to complete the maintenance and supply work within 3 days, based on the minimum requirements. Sir, do you want to leave early? Adjutant Sandus asked. Our application for maintenance supplies has been sent to the Imperial Navy. They naturally know our status, so requesting a combat order at this time should allow us to leave early. Colonel Thrawn smiled lightly and added, the worst-case scenario. Okay, I'll make arrangements right away. Sandus immediately gave a military salute. In the conference room, Colonel Thrawn stood meticulously in front of the screen, standing straight with his feet apart like compasses. A middle-aged man wearing the white uniform of a Galactic Empire naval general appeared on the screen. He was the commander of the sector where Thrawn's fleet was located, Vice Admiral Chenault. According to the battle plan of the Imperial Navy, the commander of the 6th Patrol Fleet, Thrawn, Vice Admiral Chenault looked at the blue-skinned Chiss in front of him coldly, with no attempt to hide his contempt. I order you to set off immediately to reinforce the planet Akuria. Thrawn said calmly, General, my fleet just fought with the Geth battle group still needs time for repairs. According to the approved documents, we need 7 days to complete the repairs. The people of the Empire on the planet Akuria are being attacked by the Geth, and you expect us to wait 7 days? Lieutenant General Chenault sneered. As a Chiss, you clearly have no sympathy for humans. Your judgment is baseless. As the commander of the 6th Patrol Fleet, my primary obligation is to ensure the defeat of our enemy. If I cannot achieve this, then nothing else matters. Thrawn replied calmly. Defeat the enemy, yes. You performed admirably in the last battle, defeating the Geth battle group without any losses to your fleet. So why are you delaying now? Are you disobeying me? Lieutenant General Chenault accused. Colonel Thrawn's tone remained unchanged. General, damage and loss are two different things. Although my fleet did not suffer any losses, it was seriously damaged during the battle. Based on my report, a 7-day rest period is both accurate and reasonable. Let me confirm again, Colonel Thrawn. Lieutenant General Chenault's tone turned icy. My order is to set off immediately. Are you refusing to comply? 3 days. That is the minimum time required for my fleet to be combat ready. If you insist on immediate departure, I will have to request a new decision from the Imperial Navy Department, Thrawn stated. You are fortunate, Chiss. For aliens like you who disregard humans, farming in the Outer Ring is the best outcome. 3 days it is. If I don't see action by then, I will send you to the Imperial Tribunal immediately. Lieutenant General Chenault's face trembled with anger. As you wish, General. Colonel Thrawn stood at attention and saluted. The screen gradually went dark, reflecting Thrawn's young and handsome face, along with a calm smile at the corner of his mouth. Sir, he is making things difficult for us, Adjutant Sanders exclaimed angrily. With the current state of our battleship, 3 days is simply not enough time for complete repairs. Rather, we are fortunate to have 3 days, Colonel Thrawn replied. 3 days later, in the outer orbit of the planet Akaria, a burst of white light flashed, and the massive figure of the fire-breathing Empire-class Star Destroyer appeared in the universe, followed closely by the Vindicator-class heavy cruiser and 10 Night Watch-class frigates. The outer armor of these battleships showed signs of recent, urgent repairs. Adjutant Sanders frowned at the large debris field in the planet's outer orbit. The spaceport has been destroyed, but where are the Geth battleships? Didn't the Intelligence Department report that a small Geth battle group was causing damage here? They are hiding in a nearby uninhabited galaxy. When we launch operations, they will use warp speed to quickly appear and raid us, Colonel Thrawn said calmly. How do you know? Sandus asked, struggling to keep up with Thrawn's reasoning. The Geth avoid frontal combat. Before every conflict, they try to create their own advantages through other means, Thrawn explained. But they will not abandon any target. According to calculations, for the Geth to reach the planet Akareya using warp speed, it would take between 7 months and a year. They will not waste such a time investment. Sandus nodded in understanding. And now their fleet is nowhere to be seen. The only explanation is that they are hiding, waiting for an opportunity to launch a surprise attack, Thrawn concluded, of a Geth unit. He gestured towards it, continuing his explanation. This is their weakness. They are bound by their programming, no matter how sophisticated it may seem. They lack the true unpredictability of intelligent life. Sandus nodded, beginning to understand Thrawn's point. So, by not landing immediately, we force them to reveal their hand? Precisely, Thrawn confirmed. We will draw them out, make them show their true intentions. By entering synchronous orbit, we maintain a strategic advantage. We can observe and respond without committing our forces prematurely. The bridge crew moved with renewed purpose, executing Thrawn's orders with precision. The fleet adjusted its position, entering synchronous orbit around the planet. Fighters and bombers launched, taking up hidden positions on the planet's satellite, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Thrawn turned back to the bridge screen, where the planet's administrator still appeared, looking desperate. Administrator, we are taking measures to secure the planet. Have your forces prepare for coordinated action. We will support you, but we must do this strategically. The administrator nodded, though his fear was still evident. Thank you, General. We will do as you say. As the communication ended, Thrawn addressed his officers. Prepare for the next phase. We will monitor the Geth's movements closely, any sign of their forces, and we will be ready to strike. Hours passed with tense anticipation. The fleet maintained its position, sensors scanning for any sign of the Geth. Finally, a report came in. General, we have detected Geth movements near Desoma. They are mobilizing ground forces. Thrawn's eyes narrowed. Good. They are taking the bait. All units, prepare for engagement. We will strike with precision and decisiveness. The fleet moved into action, fighters and bombers launching from their hidden positions. The Imperial-class Star Destroyers adjusted their positions, ready to provide support. As the Geth forces emerged, they were met with a coordinated assault from the Empire's forces. Explosions lit up the surface of the planet as the battle commenced. Thrawn's strategy was clear and effective, catching the Geth off guard. The Imperial forces moved with precision, exploiting the weaknesses Thrawn had identified. As the battle raged on, Thrawn remained calm and focused, directing his forces with calculated efficiency. The Geth, despite their initial cunning, were no match for the strategic brilliance of Thrawn and his officers. Hours later, the battle was over. The Geth forces were decimated, their plans thwarted. The city of Desoma was liberated, and the planet's inhabitants were safe once more. Thrawn stood on the bridge, surveying the aftermath. Well done, everyone. We have shown the Geth that their tactics will not succeed against us. Let this be a lesson to them, and to any who would challenge the Empire. Sandus approached, a look of admiration on his face. General, your strategy was flawless. You anticipated their every move. Thrawn nodded, a rare smile touching his lips. Remember, Sandus, true intelligence is not just about following patterns. It's about understanding and adapting. The Geth may be formidable, but they are still bound by their programming. We, however, are not. With the battle won and the planet secure, the fleet prepared to move on to their next mission. Thrawn's reputation as a brilliant strategist was further cemented, and the Empire's dominance continued to grow. Thrawn stood over the wreckage of a Geth unit, meticulously examining every detail. The central computer had been destroyed, but the body remained relatively intact. Since receiving orders to come to the north, Thrawn had spent most of his time studying anything related to the Geth. They have never abandoned the appearance given to them by their creators, Thrawn mused aloud. Even heavy units like the Geth Colossus maintain the same design characteristics, despite the inefficiency for combat. This appearance is the part of them that is closest to wisdom. It is the image of their creators. As he spoke, Thrawn's fleet entered synchronous orbit around the planet, forming a battle formation. Tens of thousands of air mines were deployed around the ships. Although these mines would soon be pulled into the atmosphere by the planet's gravity, they would serve their purpose long enough for Thrawn to execute his plan. Less than 2 hours had passed when more than a dozen Geth insect-shaped warships suddenly appeared outside the planet. Their location was directly within the planet's gravitational circle, less than 1,000 kilometers away from Thrawn's fleet. Chapter 1913. Spark 10. It's the Geth! They're coming! The radar operator shouted. Impossible! How are they so close? Adjutant Sandus exclaimed. His surprise was justified. The Geth had appeared alarmingly close to their fleet, which was in planetary synchronous orbit. This meant they were within the planet's gravity well, a place where hyperspace jumps were considered highly dangerous. Common sense dictated that hyperspace jumps should avoid gravity wells. Ships needed to escape the gravity well to initiate a jump, avoid mass projections during the jump, and ensure they weren't within a gravity well upon exiting. Otherwise, the gravitational forces could wreak havoc, potentially damaging or tearing apart the ship. Yet, the Geth fleet had defied these norms, appearing directly within the gravity well and less than 1,000 kilometers from the Imperial fleet. In space combat, this was practically point-blank range. The Geth battleships, notorious for their plasma cannons, immediately opened fire. Countless plasma balls hurtled towards the Imperial fleet. Quick, adjust the shield output. Face forward. Captain Parker of the fire-breathing Star Destroyer commanded, issuing tactical instructions. The radar operator's voice came again. Confirm the number of enemy ships, 1 Geth cruiser, 4 Geth destroyers, 12 Geth frigates. Sir, Sandus looked at Thrawn with expectant eyes. The Geth battle group was formidable, especially compared to their patrol fleet. The 600-meter Geth cruiser could directly compete with a 1,000-meter battleship. The 300-meter Geth destroyers and 100-meter Geth frigates were significantly more powerful than their Imperial counterparts. Sandus was taken aback by Thrawn's calm demeanor. Even with the enemy's superior strength and proximity, Thrawn remained unflustered. Seeing Thrawn's firm and indifferent eyes, Sandus felt a surge of confidence. He suddenly remembered that Thrawn had prepared in advance, laying mines in the airspace, selecting the battlefield, and launching fighter jets ahead of time. Even in a direct confrontation, the minefield and fighter formations would give them an edge. It's Thrawn. He thought of everything, Sandus realized. Retreat, Colonel Thrawn said calmly. What? Adjutant Sandus, who had just steeled himself for a fight to the death, was taken aback. Retreat? Retreat and enter the planet's atmosphere, Thrawn repeated calmly. Why retreat? We have the advantage. We can defeat the Geth battle group. Sandus protested loudly. Oh, are you sure? Thrawn responded with a cold smile. All troops, withdraw into the atmosphere. Regroup above the planet's capital. The air mines will buy us enough time. Execute the order. Yes, Sandus reluctantly complied, giving the order for the entire fleet to retreat. The Imperial fleet increased speed, heading towards the planet's atmosphere. As they descended, friction ignited a raging fire outside the deflector shields. The massive Empire-class Star Destroyer entered the atmosphere, trailing a sea of flames like a demon wrapped in fire. The Geth fleet accelerated to pursue, but Thrawn ordered the air mines to be detonated in batches. Violent explosions erupted in synchronous orbit, forcing the Geth warships to halt, effectively blocking their advance. The Imperial fleet opened fire immediately, launching countless plasma cannons forward and detonating numerous air mines. Once all the air mines were cleared, the fleet entered the atmosphere. The Geth fleet, relentless in their pursuit, followed closely behind. Thrawn, leading the 6th Patrol Fleet of the Galactic Empire, stood ready at an altitude of over 20,000 meters above the planet's capital. Without hesitation, the Geth warships unleashed a dense barrage of plasma cannons towards the Imperial fleet. Thrawn quickly issued an order, all troops, defensive formation. The battleships swiftly formed a spherical defense formation with the fire-breathing Empire-class Star Destroyer at the core. The ships were positioned so closely together that there were almost no gaps. Faced with the indiscriminate bombardment from the Geth, they chose to resist head-on. Only one Vindicator-class heavy cruiser roamed outside the formation. This cruiser, brand new and the only one of its kind in the fleet, was in the best condition. The 600-meter-long Vindicator-class heavy cruiser, with its precise and fierce firepower, was ideal for combating small and medium-sized warships and fighter jets. The Geth warships quickly surrounded the Imperial fleet, firing wildly. The exchange of fire was intense, with both sides engaging in direct confrontations. Meanwhile, the planet's surface anti-aircraft defenses also joined the fray. Anti-aircraft missiles and laser cannons fired relentlessly, and outdated V-19 Riptide light fighters and ARC-170 heavy fighters from the planetary ground defense forces took to the skies. Despite their outdated equipment, the planetary defense forces, seasoned by years of the Clone Wars, provided significant support to Thrawn's fleet. The more than 70 fighter jets launched from the ground, combined with the dense anti-aircraft firepower, put immense pressure on the Geth fleet. In the aerial battlefield, Thrawn's deployment ensured the Imperial fleet's formation was impenetrable. No matter the direction of the Geth's attack, they faced the combined firepower of the entire Imperial fleet. Alongside the fire-breathing Empire-class Star Destroyer and the Vindicator-class heavy cruiser, the 6th Patrol Fleet's 10 Night Watch-class frigates proved formidable. Each 255-meter-long Night Watch frigate was equipped with 3 heavy-duty turbolaser cannons, providing cruiser-level firepower. Under such intense fire, the Geth fleet struggled. They lost 2 100-meter-class frigates and a 300-meter-class destroyer. Realizing the dire situation, the remaining Geth warships turned and fled the atmosphere. "They're retreating," Sandus exclaimed with joy. He overheard Colonel Thrawn muttering to himself, "Ha! Finally feeling the pressure? Ha!" "Colonel Thrawn, have we won?" Adjutant Sandus asked loudly. "Chase them. Prepare the fighter units for immediate attack." Colonel Thrawn commanded sternly. "The real decisive battle is about to begin." "Yes, sir," Captain Parker responded promptly. "Chase? Our warships can't match the Geth's speed." Sandus began, but to his surprise he saw their warships closely tailing the Geth fleet, displaying an unexpected level of mobility. "This is gravity." Colonel Thrawn displayed a calm smile. In a gravitational environment, coupled with air resistance, the maneuverability of Geth warships is significantly compromised. Therefore, under normal circumstances, they are reluctant to engage us in such an environment. Sandus suddenly understood. That's why you had the fleet stay in synchronous orbit, lay aerial mines, and set up an ambush, waiting for the Geth to take the bait. Only after they enter the atmosphere will the Geth fleet catch up. Sir, you actually planned this far ahead? If we had entered the atmosphere from the beginning, the Geth fleet would not have appeared. He couldn't help but use honorifics as he spoke. I have said before, the Geth consider themselves intelligent creatures. When faced with a choice, their judgment is still based on a robot's program, Colonel Thrawn explained calmly. If we had entered the atmosphere directly, the Geth fleet would not have come to raid. At that point, we would have given up the initiative to the Geth, allowing them to choose the time of battle. I understand. When we were in synchronous orbit, despite the aerial mines and fighter formations, the Geth fleet was still at full strength. We had no chance of winning in a head-on confrontation with them. Only in the atmosphere, with the help of the planetary defense force and environmental factors, can we prevent the Geth warships from taking advantage of their mobility, allowing us to repel them, Sandus said. Colonel Thrawn corrected him. It's not about repelling them, but making them uncomfortable. And making this decision, it was a mechanical program that judged they could not fight in a disadvantageous environment, so they left. When leaving the atmosphere, the biggest factor affecting speed is the output of the battleship's reactor, rather than other comprehensive factors. In this regard, the Empire's battleships are actually stronger than the Geth's. Only then did Sandus realize the current situation. Yes, the Imperial fleet was actually clinging to the Geth warship and still firing. At this stage of leaving the atmosphere, the maneuverability of the Geth warships was also compromised. The reason why Geth warships are very flexible and highly maneuverable is because they have no redundant structures. Their overall design is very compact, with no excess weight, resulting in a high thrust-to-weight ratio. This makes their acceleration and steering far superior to that of Imperial warships of the same level. However, in terms of straight-line speed, the Geth battleship has no advantage at all. What determines speed is the power of the reactor. Under the same technology, the larger the reactor, the more powerful it will naturally be. Take the LA-2B ionization solar reactor of the Imperial-class Star Destroyer as an example. It is so huge that it can be said the Imperial class is just a shell around this reactor. In other words, the reactor on the Geth battleship cannot be more powerful than the reactor on the Imperial-class Star Destroyer. However, in many previous battles, the Imperial military and officers were so impressed by the ferocious firepower and flexible maneuverability of the Geth warships that they forgot that, aside from flexibility, the absolute power of the Imperial warships, speed is actually greater than that of the Geth battleship. It's just that in most battles, there is no occasion where the absolute speed advantage can be exerted. While Colonel Thrawn was explaining his tactical ideas to Sandus and others, the Geth warship had already left the planet's atmosphere. It immediately took advantage of its flexible steering and quickly turned around to engage the pursuing Imperial fleet. Thrawn ordered the 6th Patrol Fleet to catch up without delay. The massive, fire-breathing Empire-class Star Destroyer led the charge, rushing towards the Geth with the powerful firepower of 60 heavy turbolaser cannons. The Sri Lankan battleship opened fire with its 60 ion cannons. Faced with such overwhelming firepower, even the formidable Geth battleships dared not engage directly and were forced to disperse. They planned to leverage their mobility to disrupt the formation of the Imperial fleet, repeating their old tactics. Meanwhile, other warships from the 6th Patrol Fleet arrived, closely followed by a formation of fighter jets taking off from the ground. The two sides exchanged fierce fire once again. In the vacuum of space, devoid of gravity and atmosphere, there were no distractions, only direct confrontations. The fighter formation of the 6th Patrol Fleet, which had taken off earlier, launched from the direction of the satellite and struck directly at the rear of the Geth fleet. The Geth warships, preoccupied with the powerful frontal firepower of the Imperial-class Star Destroyers, were caught completely off guard by this pincer attack. They continued their assault on the Imperial fleet's formation, hoping to inflict severe damage on the fire-breathing beast Star Destroyer as quickly as possible. However, as more battleships took their positions, the Imperial fleet, under the brilliant command of Colonel Thrawn, reformed into an impenetrable wall. The Geth warships found themselves unable to break through in the short term. Under the cover of dozens of TIE LN fighters, 6 Y-wing bombers managed to approach the largest Geth cruiser, a 600-meter-long behemoth. They launched 12 proton torpedoes at the cruiser's engine. Despite the Geth cruiser's frantic attempts to intercept and evade, 2 torpedoes found their mark. The light blue proton clouds exploded, paralyzing the Geth cruiser in a very time. This marked the complete failure of the Geth fleet. It was a miraculous victory. Colonel Thrawn, the architect of this triumph, returned to his seat. He picked up a glass of wine produced on Dawn Planet, took a sip with elegant poise, and closed his eyes to savor the moment. "Checkmate," he murmured softly, the word for Dawn Planet slipping from his lips. Chapter 1914, Spark 11. When the last Geth warship was shattered and torn apart in the explosion, Colonel Thrawn once again led the 6th Patrol Fleet to victory. However, the victory came at a cost. Under the Geth's frenzied counterattack, 2 Night Watch-class frigates were destroyed. One of them disintegrated on the spot, leaving none of the 400 crew members alive. The other frigate lost power, was captured by the planet's gravity, and fell. This ship was luckier. After crashing, it made an emergency landing on the ocean, and about 180 crew members survived. The losses were greater than in the previous battle, even though the number of Geth fleets faced was smaller. Considering that Colonel Thrawn's 6th Patrol Fleet had just experienced a fierce battle 3 days prior, the victory in this second battle was even more remarkable. During this engagement, Colonel Thrawn was able to anticipate the Geth's movements, a feat that left everyone in disbelief. The officers and soldiers in the fleet were still in shock. "We won?" Sanders' face was filled with disbelief. "The landing can begin now. Have the Marines prepare immediately," Colonel Thrawn ordered, showing no concern for the victory. "Also, notify the Naval Logistics Department to resupply our fleet immediately. Submit a combat report and apply to return to the rear for repairs and maintenance." "Yes! Yes!" Sanders responded quickly. The entire fleet sprang into action. The fire-breathing Empire-class Star Destroyer began to recover the fighter formations, including those from the planet's ground defense forces. These fighters were then carried back into the atmosphere and redeployed in the planet's capital. Simultaneously, the fire-breathing beast's hangar landing platform was fully deployed, and transport planes began to take off, sending the Marines carried on the Star Destroyer to the ground in batches. This included 20 large armored units, such as ATTE all-terrain tactical assault walkers, ATA all-terrain armored transport walkers, and 400 Zephyr G armed hover motorcycles. After landing, the Marines regrouped and assembled, preparing to cooperate with the planet's ground defense forces to launch an attack on the cities occupied by the Geth. Meanwhile, 3 Night Watch-class frigates in relatively good condition flew over the city and conducted preliminary bombings on more obvious targets, paving the way for subsequent strikes. However, just as the ground military operations were about to begin in full swing, new orders from the Navy Division of the sector were conveyed. Lieutenant General Chenor's holographic projection appeared again. He looked at Thrawn with undisguised disgust and spoke in a sinister manner. "It seems that you still have reservations, Chiss. You already had the ability to defeat the Geth, but you delayed for 3 whole days. In those 3 days, how many human subjects of the Empire died because of this?" He emphasized the word human strongly. "I will not express any opinion on this, Lieutenant General," Colonel Thrawn replied calmly, refusing to quarrel with the scoundrel. "Of course, I don't expect a foreigner to express any opinions. Do you understand? Look at the Geth. This is what the aliens have brought to us. And you, the Chiss, in my eyes, you are no different from the Geth." Chenor's face was gloomy. "I think some special emotions have begun to hinder your normal thinking, Lieutenant General Chenor. From many perspectives, this is not a good phenomenon, especially for you," Colonel Thrawn said lightly. "That's enough. You Chiss have no right to tell me this. Now let me tell you that the planet Lord has been attacked by pirates. I order you to go and destroy them immediately. Lieutenant General Raynor barked. General Chenault declared loudly, I hope that this combat order will also be signed by the Imperial Navy. Despite the tension, Colonel Thrawn remained unflustered. As the district commander, I have the authority to make emergency decisions within my defense zone, he stated calmly. Lieutenant General Chenault retorted, What an impromptu decision, General Chenault. At that moment, another voice interrupted. A new holographic projection appeared next to Thrawn, revealing a young man in his early 30s, dressed in the white uniform of an Imperial Navy general. Judging by his badge, he was also a lieutenant general, and he looked at Chenault with a stern expression. General Gilad Pellaeon, why are you here? Chenault gasped. As the commander of the northern defense line of the Galactic Empire, I have decided that the 9th Squadron under your command, General Chenault, should immediately launch a counterattack against the planet Ood Mantel. We must reclaim the planet from the Separatists and restore the glory of the 8th Army. Set off immediately. Lieutenant General Gilad Pellaeon demanded, confronting Chenault directly. Chenault's demeanor shifted, and his confidence waned. No, I mean, the situation on Rolled Planet is urgent now. Then move your 9th Squadron. Pellaeon insisted, showing no patience. Chenault, visibly frustrated, took a deep breath to calm himself. Understood. I will redeploy. As for the Chiss fleet, it will temporarily remain on the planet Akaria until the remaining Geth are completely wiped out. Pellaeon sneered. Colonel Thrawn has the authority to make his own judgments about frontline wars. Humph! Chenault grunted and ended the communication. Although both were vice admirals, there was a significant difference in their standings. Gilad Pellaeon, despite his young age, commanded the northern defense line of the Galactic Empire and was on the verge of becoming an admiral. In contrast, Lieutenant General Chenault was merely the commander-in-chief of a Star Division fleet, incomparable to Pellaeon. Moreover, Pellaeon was the governor of the 9th Army and a favored subordinate of Dun Wessex, the King of the North. He had direct access to Wessex and, if necessary, could even arrange a meeting with Emperor Pascal Elpatin. Lieutenant General Chenault, who didn't even know Wessex's communication frequency, seemed insignificant in comparison. Please don't pay attention to these people, Mr. Thrawn, Pellaeon said respectfully, showing no sign of the authority gap between them. Lieutenant General Chenault's plan is to keep you here. It will take a long time to completely wipe out the Geth that have landed, and with the spaceport of Akaria destroyed, your fleet won't be able to get proper repairs. He will then use the excuse of prolonged repairs to force you to face a strong enemy in an incomplete state, Pellaeon explained. That's why I need your help, General Pellaeon, Thrawn responded politely. In fact, despite being born in 51 BBY and being 8 years younger than Thrawn, Gilad Pellaeon showed great respect towards him. Gilad Pellaeon was born in 59 BBY. Despite their different circumstances, which led to a significant status gap between them, he and Thrawn shared a unique connection. In another universe known as the Original Plot, Gilad Pellaeon's growth and achievements were far less significant, and he remained a junior officer. In that timeline, Pellaeon served on a battleship commanded by Thrawn and learned many valuable lessons from him. However, in this universe, Gilad Pellaeon was recognized by Admiral Eureka of the Republic Navy for his exceptional performance in the battle against the Geth. Admiral Eureka took a special interest in training him. During a subsequent battle on the planet Doran, Admiral Eureka succumbed to severe injuries, and Gilad Pellaeon inherited his legacy. Pellaeon successfully led the fleet to escape the Geth's pursuit, earning significant accolades. He later organized a successful defense on the planet Phaida, halting the Geth's advance. This series of victories caught the attention of Dun Wessex, who trained Pellaeon as his most important general and relied on his strategic advice to establish a robust defense against Geth infiltration. Consequently, Gilad Pellaeon's status in the military soared. In contrast, Thrawn faced discrimination due to his Chiss identity and struggled to advance in the military. When Thrawn was transferred to the north and became a mid-level officer, he had numerous interactions with Pellaeon. Pellaeon was deeply impressed by Thrawn, who was 8 years his senior and possessed vast knowledge, insights, and wisdom, all while maintaining an air of elegance. Despite Peleon's higher status, he regarded Thrawn as his mentor after several long conversations. He believed Thrawn's abilities far surpassed his own and respectfully addressed him as Mr. Thrawn, deliberately avoiding the issue of military rank to prevent any awkwardness. Thrawn, in turn, did not mind this and appreciated the gesture. Their friendship grew stronger over time. Thrawn admired Gilad Pellaeon, a talented and diligent Imperial Navy admiral, and generously shared his knowledge and experience with him. Pellaeon reciprocated by protecting Colonel Thrawn within the army and shielding him from racial criticisms. This support enabled Thrawn to command the 6th Patrol Fleet. Pellaeon was also seeking an opportunity to formally introduce Colonel Thrawn to Governor Dun Wessex, hoping that Thrawn's talents would be recognized by the King of the North, allowing him to better pursue his ambitions. Unbeknownst to them, the presence of Tang Xiao and the Geth in this universe had drastically altered the relationship between Gilad Pellaeon and Thrawn. This change would eventually forge a formidable and terrifying duo known as the Empire's Double Wall. Mr. Thrawn, I will report to Governor Dun Wessex again and request that you be transferred from Lieutenant General Chenor, Gilad Pellaeon said. Thrawn shook his head and replied, "Thank you for your kindness, but there's no need, General Pellaeon. General Chenor is a simple, even foolish person. Although he harbors hostility towards me, he doesn't know how to truly put me in a desperate situation. In a way, his incompetence protects me. But if incidents like today keep happening, it will become very dangerous," Gilad Pellaeon cautioned. "I only need to do one thing," Thrawn said calmly. "I will approach Lieutenant General Chenor and reiterate that I have no intention of leaving his command and am willing to continue serving him. He is a vain, cowardly man who loves success, and my proposal will satisfy his every need. Like this, you might feel very frustrated." Gilad Pellaeon shook his head and sighed. "With your talent, Admiral should not be the end. The current situation in the North does not meet the conditions for me to be promoted quickly. Therefore, what I need is more experience," Thrawn replied. "Even the battle on the planet Pheda that you once faced will pale in comparison to the challenges the North may face in the future." Gilad Pellaeon's expression grew serious. With his broad-mindedness and strategic thinking, he did not take Thrawn's statement as an insult. Instead, he considered a troubling possibility. The Geth, without a doubt, were brought by the Principality of Dawn from the unknown star field. If we eventually go to war with the Principality of Dawn, they will not hide their involvement with the Geth. Thrawn shook his head. The Geth do not originate from the unknown star field. Their origins are shrouded in mystery. They appeared suddenly, without any warning. What concerns me is not the relationship between the Principality of Dawn and the Geth, but whether there is collusion between them. In fact, collusion between them might actually be beneficial. Beneficial? Gilad Pellaeon shook his head in disbelief. If the Principality of Dawn openly allies with the Geth, our chances of maintaining our current defense line are almost zero. Chapter 1915, Spark 12. Colonel Thrawn shook his head and said, "The current Geth has its limits." Limits? In terms of quantity or in terms of area? Gilad Pellaeon frowned. Thrawn opened the holographic star map, gestured at a place in the northern inner ring area, and said, "It is roughly at this location, but I still need to make further confirmation. I need to know more about our enemies. I will notify the intelligence officer and send intelligence on the Geth at any time," Gilad Pellaeon said seriously. "It's just that I still don't understand why the Geth have limits. They have been proven to be the most powerful and terrifying mechanical creatures, cruel and cold-blooded. They carry out predatory mining wherever they go, using all the resources to build factories and create more individuals. Oh no, I already know a lot about the Geth. The missing parts can't be found with the Geth. Therefore, what I need to pay attention to is the information about the Dawn planet," Thrawn said calmly. "Planet Dawn?" "Yes. Planet Dawn is the limit of the Geth," Thrawn replied. Gilad Pellaeon shook his head and said, "I don't quite understand the relationship between the two. Dawn Planet should be the one who brought the Geth here, and they should also be secretly supporting the Geth behind the scenes. We believe that the Intergalactic Banking Association, M, and the Fourth Group on the planet Makito are now in the core of the Geth-controlled area, providing support for their invasion. He pulled out a piece of intelligence and said, "Look, in the past 2 years, the Imperial Intelligence Agency and the Imperial Security Bureau have conducted more than 1,800 secret operations on the planet Makito, but all failed without exception. Among these more than 1,800 operations, 265 were able to send back final information, and in 214 of them, the final information was related to the Geth. The most important reason why we were unable to attack the separatism and the economic lifeline of the Dawn Principality was because of the Geth's presence. Judging from the current situation on the star chart, this is indeed the case. The core planets of the Fourth Group and the Interstellar Banking Association, M, the Mekitor planet, the Mullenster planet, and the former capital of the Eighth Army of the Republic, the Ode Mantle planet, are now all controlled by the Geth, wrapped in the middle. Although the Fourth Group and the Interstellar Banking Association would release some news from time to time about their efforts to resist the Geth invasion and achieve great victories, many people began to believe that they were colluding with the Geth. But since you can't confirm this matter, rumors are rumors, and it will never be official. What's more, now that the Principality of Dawn has declared its allegiance to the Galactic Empire, what are you going to do if your Galactic Empire spreads the word that the Principality of Dawn is colluding with the Geth? Will the two sides immediately turn against each other and start another fight? Although both sides believe that a fight will happen sooner or later, for now, neither side wants to fight. So regarding the Geth matter, the media in the Principality of Dawn tried their best to clear themselves up, while the media in the Galactic Empire, although they couldn't say it openly, always made some weird comments from time to time. Colonel Thrawn looked at the information about the Geth, smiled lightly, and said, "Actually, this matter is not difficult to understand. If the Dawn planet and the Geth are really in an alliance, no matter how the Geth expands, the chains around their necks will always be in the hands of Dawn planet. Look at those planets that were captured by the Geth. Everyone was turned into corpse puppets. The planet's ecological environment was completely destroyed, and the entire planet was transformed into a huge factory. Do you think Dawn planet will still want these planets? No, they don't want them. You mean, if the two sides are really in alliance, then Dawn Planet will not let the Geth go too far, and will always hold the chain behind them to prevent the Geth from continuing to wreak havoc in wider areas. Gilad Palaeon understood. And if the Geth and Dawn planet are not in alliance, then their expansion will be unscrupulous. Maybe they are the real thorn in the side of the galaxy. It's a serious problem. Colonel Thrawn's eyes became profound. Maybe it's not the Geth's turn. It's not the Geth. Who should it be? Gilad Palaeon was stunned. Nothing. Colonel Thrawn's expression became serious. In short, we need to get rid of the Geth first, and then the Principality of Dawn. All entities that affect Galaxy System 1 must be eliminated. Gilad Palaeon also looked solemn and nodded. In short, I need more information about Dawn Planet now. No matter what it is, as long as it is related to Dawn Planet, I need it. And about the creator of the Geth, the so-called Quarians. Thrawn's eyes sharpened. This race is really too mysterious. I can find many traces of the Quarians on the Geth, but I can't find any traces of them in this galaxy. This doesn't make sense. The Intelligence Department has also noticed this race, but just like the Solarians, they can't find any past records. I used to think that they were all races from unknown star fields, but now I find that they are not. Gilad Palaeon frowned. A race brilliant enough to create mechanical life of the level of the Geth, even if it dies, will leave behind many relics. We can even find the relics of the Kua people, Tau people, and philosophers from past races in the galaxy. Even the ruins of Killik and Rakata are numerous. Therefore, the Quarians and Solarians are definitely not impossible to find because they are too old or too remote. Colonel Thrawn said, "For me, this is very important. If we can't even understand the origin of an opponent, then this may become a very fatal factor." He looked at Gilad Palaeon, his tone slow and low but with shocking power. That is, everything this opponent has shown is fake. Hearing these words, Gilad Palaeon's face changed drastically. he murmured. It's all fake? He knew exactly what this meant. This means that this opponent is very likely to overturn everything he has shown at a certain time and appear in a new and unfamiliar posture. At that time, the Galactic Empire will play an unfamiliar opponent. At the most critical and intense moment of a war, such a change may even cause a devastating defeat. Things can't go on like this. Jalad Palayan made up his mind. Chapter 1916, A Spark. I wish everyone a happy and healthy year of the dragon. Lieutenant General Jalad Palayan's assessment of the situation between the Geth, the Fourth Group, and the Interstellar Banking Association in the Northern Territory was quite accurate. The planets Maquito and Mulinster are developing at an astonishing pace. If you visit the planet Maquito, you'll find it shrouded in ice and snow, resembling a beautiful ice crystal. Despite its frigid appearance, the planet is industrializing at an alarming rate. On the planet's periphery, two massive Aganev-class interstellar bases, each with a side length of 45,000 meters, are under construction. These bases are strategically located at the north and south poles, providing formidable firepower to protect the planet. The Aganev-class interstellar bases come in various sizes, with smaller ones having a circumference of 8,000 meters and larger ones reaching hundreds of kilometers. Previously, most buildings constructed by the Fourth Civilization ranged from 10,000 to 20,000 meters in length. However, these two colossal bases, each with a side length of 45,000 meters, represent the pinnacle of material resources, financial investment, and technological advancement. Building such large interstellar bases requires advanced materials science. Without the right materials, constructing these bases would be impossible. Additionally, a massive star ring is under construction along the planet's equator. Over 60% of the star ring is complete, divided into 7 segments. Countless engineering spacecraft work tirelessly day and night, accelerating the construction. It is expected that the star ring will be fully connected and sealed within 2 years. Once the Aganev-class interstellar bases at the poles and the star ring are completed, the planet Maquito's defense will be nearly unshakable. This demonstrates the immense wealth of the Interstellar Banking Association, M. Under the leadership of Thorn Seal, the Interstellar Banking Association, M, has fully integrated with the Principality of Dawn, extending its influence into all aspects of the Principality. With their vast financial reserves, they have invested heavily in the Principality of Dawn, making significant advancements. In contrast, the Interstellar Banking Association, S, centered on the planet Scipio and led by Rush Clovis, serves as the economic core of the Galactic Empire. However, the Galactic Empire is plagued by numerous issues, and much of its wealth remains concentrated in the hands of wealthy inner circle nobles, leading to an awkward and unstable situation. The planet Maquito is being developed to meet the defense standards of the galaxy's financial core. According to the construction and development plan submitted to Tang Xiao, the planet Maquito must have a defense level capable of withstanding a siege by 200 Empire-class star destroyers and remain as stable as Mount Tai. Beneath a highly secretive billion-year-old ice layer on the planet lies a massive treasury, storing vast amounts of wealth used to support the financial operations of the Interstellar Banking Association. In addition to the hundreds of large ice cities already present, large-scale construction of factories and industrial areas has begun, transforming the planet into a colossal industrial fortress. If you visit the planet, you'll notice Geth working tirelessly everywhere, contributing to the planet's rapid development. The Principality of Dawn has made significant strides in developing the planet and has established strong relationships with the local residents. In the city, it is common to see the Geth walking alongside the locals. Although the Geth are not considered an intelligent species, they can still communicate effectively with the residents. In daily life, Geth individuals often take on roles as helpers, assisting with tasks such as moving items and performing various jobs. However, there is an unspoken rule in the Principality of Dawn regarding the treatment of the Geth. They must not be treated as slaves and should be regarded as equals. While residents can request help from the Geth, they must do so respectfully and without using a commanding tone. Tang Xiao is particularly concerned that the Geth might be sensitive about their status as intelligent beings. Any misstep could potentially trigger a catastrophic reaction. The reason for the Geth's deep involvement in the production, life, and construction of the planet Makito is straightforward. Tang Xiao needs to guard against both the Interstellar Banking Association, IBA, and the Geth, so he strategically places them together to influence and contain each other. Tang Xiao cannot allow the IBA to control the economic lifeline of the Principality of Dawn. He has infiltrated the IBA with his own agents and established control over their major industries and investments. As a result, the IBA is divided into factions, including the old moon forces and emerging groups like Thorn Seal. Tang Xiao has also noticed signs of division within the Geth. Some Geth are engaged in frontline combat, while others focus on construction in the rear. These two groups have begun to develop different standards and orientations. For humans, such differences might seem minor, but for the Geth, a mechanical race with a Gestalt consciousness, these disagreements are much more serious and could lead to a split. Tang Xiao is pleased with this development, as he does not want the Geth to become too powerful. He aims to use the Geth to weaken Palpatine and then seize the opportunity to take control himself. In addition to the rapid development of the planet Makito, the construction of the planet Mulinster is also progressing steadily. Originally a residential planet for the Moon people, Mulinster is now being transformed into a new high-precision technology center. The planet Ord Mantell, once the capital of the 8th Army of the Galactic Republic, is also undergoing significant development. After the fourth group settled there, they began to develop the planet in collaboration with the Geth. Ord Mantell was previously plagued by gangs, smuggling, gambling, and slave trading. However, with the arrival of a legitimate national power, these illegal activities have been eradicated. The planet, once known as the Pearl of the North, is now being rapidly industrialized and militarized under the joint efforts of the Geth and the fourth group. A massive military academy has also been established to train their own talented generals. Chapter 1917, Sparks, 14. Wishing everyone a happy, prosperous, and healthy year of the dragon. Of course, there are still two planets that must be mentioned in the northern range, the planet Kali and the planet Hook. The Kali people have received significant assistance since they allied with the Fourth Civilization. From the very beginning, when the Galactic Republic forcibly mediated the war between them and the Yamrai, the Fourth Civilization began to provide extensive support to the Kali planet. Initially, this support ensured that the impoverished and backward Kali people had enough to eat. Since then, the Kali people have become an integral part of the Fourth Civilization's army. The Kali are agile, ferocious by nature, and skilled in combat, making them an excellent fighting race. In the Fourth Civilization army, Kali people often serve as snipers and infiltration assault troops. As the Kali people have spent more time within the Fourth Civilization army, many have risen to become outstanding officers. With the older generation of Kali, who participated in the previous wars against the Yamrai gradually aging, a new generation of Kali has emerged as the core force of this race. This new generation is deeply influenced by the culture of the Fourth Civilization. Many have received a good education while retaining the fighting prowess of their predecessors. The current Kali people, represented by General Ben Tiras Sanskar, are a core component of the Fourth Civilization army. The planet Kali was one of the first to cooperate with the Geth and build a home with their assistance. With the Geth's help, the planet Kali quickly entered industrialization and militarization. In addition to numerous arsenals, the planet hosts many military camps and training centers where groups of Kali people receive training to become excellent warriors. The military academy on the planet Kali, which primarily trains in guerrilla warfare, jungle warfare, and asymmetric combat, has gained a strong reputation within the Kingdom of Dawn army. Many officers and soldiers from other races also choose to train on the planet Kali for further development and promotion. Among these races, the largest group is the Ewoks. The Kali people once achieved the remarkable feat of defeating the Yamrai, a junior interstellar civilization with an army from the Cold Weapon Age. Similarly, Another race in the galaxy, the Ewoks, has demonstrated this potential. In the original plot that has not yet occurred, the Ewoks used bows, arrows, and wooden clubs to defeat the Galactic Empire stormtroopers who invaded the jungle of the planet Endor. Although this event may not happen after the advent of the Fourth Civilization, it highlights the Ewoks' potential. Now, with these two races, both adept at jungle and guerrilla warfare, coming together, they may become a formidable force on the ground battlefield against the Galactic Empire in the future. Additionally, the old enemies of the Kali people, the Yamrai, who used their advanced technology to continuously invade and plunder surrounding races, have been annihilated by the Geth. Their home planet, Hook, has now become an important base for the Geth to manufacture and research corpse puppets. The Geth turned all the Yamrai into corpse puppets and are conducting experiments on almost every race in the galaxy to create more powerful corpse puppets. This includes corpse puppets made from force-sensitive individuals, known as banshees. Although Tang Xiao issued a ban on the Geth's research in this area, the Geth's work continues. The current Hook planet is a very mysterious and strange place. This planet is almost entirely populated by zombies, with piles of corpses scattered everywhere. These corpses were transported from other planets and now cover the surface of Hook. The phrase, mountains of corpses and seas of blood, doesn't even begin to describe the horror of this place. It has become an uninhabitable hell for any organic life. The air is filled with a putrid smell, deadly germs, and rotting bodies. Blood and pus flow underfoot, and the natural environment has been obliterated. The dragon's teeth piercing the corpses are as dense as a forest. No, denser, like a vast, impenetrable grassland. How many corpses are there? Millions? Tens of millions. No one knows. In such an environment, one can even hear the wail of the Force. The dark side's power grows continuously here. Even if visitors aren't killed by the deadly environment, they will lose their minds under the dark side's influence and become mindless killing machines. Even Tang Xiao doesn't know much about the situation on Hook's planet. He only knows that the Geth are conducting corpse puppet experiments here, and countless corpse puppets have been amassed. However, the specifics of this planet remain a mystery to him. Tang Xiao's position is too complicated, with too many things to consider. Even if Hook planet were to explode, he wouldn't pay much attention to it. The northern boundary of the Milky Way is currently developing in this strange environment, and a more terrifying storm is brewing. Between the Geth, the Fourth Group, the Intergalactic Banking Association, and the Galactic Empire's Northern King Dun Wessex, as well as the future Empire's twin walls, Galadpan and Thrawn, a collision is imminent. The explosion of sparks from this conflict may shake the entire galaxy. In Hutt space, on Smuggler's Moon Nar Shaddaa, a tall figure covered in a black cloak burst into a bar, stumbling towards the counter. The force of his entrance knocked the metal door crooked and sent a tall Gamo man flying several meters away. The cloaked figure reached the bar and began speaking in a terrible, hoarse voice, almost incoherently. "I hear voices in my head. Nightmares keep appearing in my program. I want to know. I want to know why. Give me wine." "Sir, you." The bartender hesitated, looking at the mechanical arm extending from the figure's sleeve. "Are you sure you can drink?" "I need it." The man slammed his fist onto the bar, creating a large dent in the metal surface. Under the hood of the cloak, a ferocious metal mask was visible. Beneath the mask, a pair of bloodshot eyes glowed with a terrifying, fierce light. "The strongest wine. Maybe this can cure my nightmare." You. The bartender backed away in fear, as if he had seen a monster. He realized he knew this person. Chapter 1918, Sparks. 15. Wishing everyone a prosperous future in the year of the dragon. However, just as the bartender was about to collapse from fear of the man in front of him, several mercenaries on the other side of the bar, disturbed by the Gamorreans who had just been knocked away, were furious. They stormed over, grabbing the man's shoulders, attempting to pull him away. "Hey, you! Why are you causing trouble here?" One of the mercenaries shouted, but his words were cut short as he felt an icy chill. It was as if he was gripping a large piece of metal, cold and unyielding. The man turned around abruptly, the movement so forceful that the cloak held by the mercenary tore with a snarl. Underneath the tattered cloak was a metal body, a simple yet terrifyingly cold shell, a ferocious metal mask, and a pair of beast-like eyes glaring from beneath it. This sight shocked everyone present. The mercenary stood stiffly, recognizing the robot before him. As the war had progressed, almost everyone in the galaxy knew of him. Even on the current wanted list of the Galactic Empire, he was among the top 5. He had once commanded countless robot armies of the Separatists, provoked wars, and faced off against the Galactic Republic. Even after the establishment of the Galactic Empire, he had resisted on the planet Salokami for 3 years. General Grievous. The mercenary uttered the name of the devil. However, something was off about General Grievous. He murmured to himself, "General Grievous! No! Not the general! It's Grievous, not the general! No!" Boom! He slapped the mercenary, holding him with a backhand slap. "It's General Grievous! Run! Run! Has the robot army reached Nishada?" The mercenaries panicked, some beginning to flee outside. "Grievous! Not a general! Not a general!" General Grievous, appearing deranged, pushed everyone around him away. He covered his head and shouted, "Ah! I saw it! I saw it!" "Can a robot still have a headache?" some onlookers whispered from a distance. General Grievous struggled for a while, then suddenly calmed down. The voice under the metal mask was low and hoarse, as if contained within a metal can. "Someone called me, demigod." At that moment, 2 lightsabers in his hands ignited, shooting out blue and green plasma blades. Simultaneously, General Grievous's arms split into 4, each hand holding a lightsaber. 4 lightsabers in hand, he exuded a terrifying aura. The onlookers realized something was wrong and screamed, starting to run away. But it was already too late. General Grievous, in a state of madness, rushed into the crowd, waving 4 lightsabers with his 4 arms like a spiraling windmill. Everyone around him was cut into pieces by the high-speed lightsabers as soon as they were caught in the fray. Tang Xiao opened his eyes suddenly and looked around. It was still night at the Grand Duke's mansion on the Dawn planet. He sat up and turned to look at Adele Ulan, who was sleeping soundly next to him. He stood up and walked to the window, gazing up at the dark night sky and the neon lights of the city reflecting off it. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Adele Ulan, noticing her husband's movements, also opened her eyes. She got up from the bed, her graceful and beautiful body covered only by a veil. She leaned gently on her husband's back, feeling his charming breath. "What's wrong, my dear?" she asked softly. "I can feel it." Tang Xiao sneered. "The seeds of darkness are taking root and sprouting one by one. The Federation of Independent Systems is about to come to an end, but Palpatine, he thinks he has won. Does he think he can free up his hands to deal with me?" Whenever this topic was discussed, Tang Xiao's demeanor became even more sinister. Adele Wulan clung tightly to Tang Xiao, feeling the raw power emanating from him. This was the sensation of control, of playing a grand chess game with the Milky Way as the board, planets as pieces, and countless lives as mere pawns. "You will eventually lead us to victory, to the pinnacle of the galaxy," Adele Wulan said, her voice filled with awe. "I'm going out for a trip," Tang Xiao announced. Adele Wulan frowned. "But, after dawn, won't Mrs. Sonia Tag be coming for treatment?" Tang Xiao's smile turned cold. "Her treatment ended a long time ago. Now, I'm just playing a game, and the connection with the Tag family must not be severed. Soon, when the Galactic Empire is in turmoil, the Tag family's change in attitude will be a sharp knife stabbing Palpatine in the back." "Yes, then I'll drive her back," Adele Wulan replied. "Make her strip naked and kneel until I return," Tang Xiao commanded, his black cloak swirling around him as he moved. "I won't be gone long, only 2 or 3 days. Remember to turn off the temperature system. I want to see how obedient the patriarch of the Tag family is after all these years of training." The Crimson Red Comet Sith infiltrator exited hyperspace and arrived at the core of Hutt space, the most prosperous and chaotic planet, Nalhuda's moon, Nar Shaddaa, also known as the Smuggler's Moon. The spacecraft landed on a towering spire, and Darth Malthael, cloaked in black, emerged. He headed directly to an inconspicuous mechanical workshop. After discreetly showing his credentials, he proceeded through a secret door at the back. This was a highly covert intelligence station. Inside, more than a dozen Solarians were busy processing countless data and intelligence. As Darth Malthael approached, one of the Solarian intelligence officers handed him a report. This is the information Nasana has collected over the past 3 days. We also investigated the previous massacre in the Camille Business District and confirmed it was General Grievous. Very good, Darth Malthael said, inputting the information into his universal tool before turning to leave. The Solarian intelligence officer added, General Grievous was in a very bad state. He went completely mad. In the Camille Business District, he fought his way from a bar to the outside, killing at least 1,000 people before escaping from a massive pursuit. Ah, of course I know, Darth Malthael replied with a cold smile. The seeds of darkness in his heart have finally sprouted, and the story between him and the Confederation of Independent Systems should also come to an end. Chapter 1919, Spark, 16. Run! General Grievous is here again! The crowd exclaimed in panic. Shops around the street quickly closed and bars kicked out all their customers. Anyone with transportation at hand jumped on it and sped away. General Grievous appeared behind the fleeing crowd, wielding 4 lightsabers with his 4 arms, slashing at anyone in his path like a madman. His mechanical shell was heavily damaged, and even the metal mask on his face had been hit by a blaster, revealing the mechanical structure underneath. The lightsabers in his hands spun like 4 deadly fans, and under their high-speed rotation, anything they touched was instantly shredded. The rotating lightsabers even formed a shield, making it impossible for any blaster beam to penetrate. Facing such a murderous figure, none of the mercenaries, explorers, or smugglers in Nishada had the courage to confront him. Many recognized him as General Grievous, the supreme military commander of the Separatists, the ruthless leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems battle droids. Although General Grievous seemed to be alone, no one could be sure he wouldn't call for reinforcements, potentially bringing hundreds of warships to surround Nishada. In the past 2 days, General Grievous had killed thousands, but for Nishada, with its population of hundreds of billions and a high proportion of transient residents, this was barely noticeable. However, the news of the Supreme Military Commander's arrival made the Hutts nervous. Yet, the Hutts had more pressing concerns. The ongoing struggle between the Desiligic and Basadi families had pushed Hutt space to the brink of civil war. Consequently, no one paid much attention to General Grievous. General Grievous was extremely dangerous. His mechanical body was built to the highest standards, and his swordsmanship had been personally tutored by Count Dooku. He even had IG-100 series guard droids designed to combat Jedi Knights, which he could eliminate with ease. Dozens of unfortunate individuals who couldn't escape in time were cut to pieces by General Grievous. Suddenly, a shadow fell from the sky. A blood-red lightsaber ignited, and a series of lightsaber clashes erupted in the air. Despite the ferocity of the attack, General Grievous's mechanical reflexes allowed him to block the assault with his 4 lightsabers. The surrounding air seemed to stagnate under the influence of the Force, making it difficult for Grievous to move, but he still managed to strike back with incredible speed. During the Clone Wars, General Grievous had relied on his immense strength and speed, as well as the fighting instincts of the Kali demigod within his soul, to kill numerous Jedi Masters. Post-war statistics revealed that at least 12 Jedi Masters had fallen to General Grievous, along with countless Jedi Knights and Padawans. However, this time, his opponent was Darth Malthael. Darth Malthael did not use his soul-stealing sword, as it had undergone changes after killing the monster that was a fusion of Darth Tenebris and the Spirit of Vengeance. He needed more time to refine the sword. Nevertheless, with his current strength, whether he used the soul-stealing sword or not, he could still suppress General Grievous. In a violent, storm-like attack, Darth Malthael forced General Grievous into a nearby warehouse. The violent battle left those around him paralyzed with fear, unable to muster the courage to watch. Anyone who dared to approach the combatants was instantly transformed into a walking zombie by the force of death. The chaos caused by the Walking Dead spread through the crowd, adding to the pandemonium. Darth Malthael kicked General Grievous away and then slowly approached him. A ferocious and cold smile appeared on the lower half of his face, partially hidden by his hood. "Do you remember anything, Grievous? The Kali demigod?" he taunted. "Ugh! What did you do to me? Why am I having nightmares? Why are there voices in my head? General Grievous screamed in agony. You shouldn't be asking me, da. Earth Malthael replied calmly. You should be asking your own memory. He raised his hand, and the dark force stirred the memory he had planted in Grievous's soul more than 10 years ago. After the Huck War between the Kali and the Yamrai, Darth Malthael had buried a dark seed in Grievous's soul. This seed was meant to protect a small part of Grievous's soul from being completely overtaken when he was later brainwashed. Now, it seemed that the battle on the planet Salukami had triggered the seed, causing it to take root and sprout. This allowed the protected part of Grievous's soul to begin to recover, bringing back memories of his past. Darth Malthael had not expected the seed to play any significant role, especially since he and General Grievous had become allies under Count Dooku and the Confederation of Independent Systems. But now that it had been triggered, he saw an opportunity to use Grievous once more. You! Who are you? What have you done to me? General Grievous roared in confusion and anger. Have you forgotten me? I am the Death Angel. I once told you on the beach of the planet Kali, in your home, that we would meet again, Darth Malthael said calmly. Mortal Angel, I know the Mortal Angel. No, why are you here now? Ah, Mortal Angel, you are Tang Xiao, you are. General Grievous clutched his head and screamed. At that moment, countless images flooded his mind. He saw himself leading his tribe against the Yamrai, fighting bloody battles on the front lines, and receiving the unreasonable mediation from the Galactic Republic. He remembered everything. Chapter 1920, A Spark. Yes, he is not General Grievous of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. He's Grievous. He is a super warrior revered as a demigod by the Kali people. He is the hero who leads the Kali people to bravely resist the invasion of the Yamrai people. Kimanjai Hilal, his former name. This name makes the invaders of Yamrai tremble. This demigod, who led the Kali people of the Cold Weapon Age, defeated the Yamrai people of the Interstellar Age. But to accomplish this great feat, he needed more helpers. And he did. Isvoshra, the most elite and powerful general under his command. Yes, it's them. Hakimi, Dillal. Yes, it's them. Then, there seems to be another name. Why does even my soul tremble when I think of this name? Lundru Liji Kumar, the figure wielding the swords on the battlefield. The elf on the battlefield, the god of death among the Yamri, is also another demigod. Only when two demigods are present at the same time can the Kali people truly possess the god who came to the world. Lundru Liji Kumar. Kumar. Ugh. Grievous suddenly raised his head and let out a terrifying roar. Kumar! They killed Kumar! That was a conspiracy! I'm back! My memories are back! That's right. On that beach, Kumar was besieged by the Yamrai conspiracy, that Kumar who taught him sword skills. The most reliable partner on the battlefield is also the deepest lover in my heart. Kumar. Beach. More pictures appeared in Grievous's mind. Yes, the beach. However, lying on the beach, as helpless as rotten flesh. Why me? I tried my best to raise my eyes, but all I saw were two blurry figures. My spaceship. My spaceship was shot down. Why? Why do the Yamri know my voyage route? And who can rescue me ashore immediately after being shot down? In the explosion, when the spacecraft was attacked, my body was completely damaged, and even my limbs were no longer noticeable. Only the weak heartbeat was left. 1 more minute later, and I would have died. But who? Bringing my body up in such a timely manner. Murder. This is a conspiracy. Yes, this is a conspiracy. General Grievous was almost crazy. He raised his head suddenly, his animalistic eyes exuding a terrifying, fierce light. Then he waved the 4 lightsabers in his hands again and slashed at the only target in front of him, Darth Malthael. However, buzz! A blood-red lightsaber blocked General Grievous's 4 lightsabers, not moving at all. Facing the crazy General Grievous, Darth Malthael blocked all his attacks with a sword in one hand. For the Force and lightsaber duels, such madness will make General Grievous even weaker. Yes, a conspiracy. Darth Malthael smiled ferociously. Then think about it. Who shot down your spaceship? You should have seen him. Who? Who is it? General Grievous roared like a wild beast. His memory was becoming clearer at this moment. He saw it. After his broken body was picked up like a pile of rotten meat, The last remaining will to survive made him raise his hand and stretch out his only left hand, which had been almost burned to bones, reaching out to the man standing before him. But what greeted him was a ruthless electric shock. Before everything faded into darkness, he saw the man and heard the voice. "Congressman Palpatine, I have completed your commission and dealt with this collie." General Grievous's pupils suddenly tightened, because he knew this voice. Before all his consciousness dissipated, the person standing in front of him and reporting the results of the conspiracy as if nothing had happened was Count Dooku. All movements fell into silence, and General Grievous stood quietly on the spot. The rage surging in his heart subsided at this moment. The Kali demigod has never been one to be swayed by emotions. "Count Dooku." Grievous's voice sounded like a demon from hell. "Why?" "Because he needs a powerful general to command," Darth Maul replied, his smile widening. "The billions of separatist battle robots are prepared to wage a full-scale civil war against the Galactic Republic," Darth Maul said calmly. "The Galactic Republic colluded with the Yamri, accepted bribes from those bugs, and forced mediation to end the war just when countless of our soldiers had sacrificed their lives and shed blood to finally win," Grievous said slowly. "And once the war stops, the Yamri, as a star civilization, can easily recover and reclaim all our victories. Then, they will slaughter us Kali people." Harker is an insulting name given to the Yamri by the Kali people, meaning a soulless body. "This is the inevitable result, and it is also the result that I will not let happen," Darth Maul said. "The Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order are our mortal enemies. As long as Count Dooku gives the word, I will naturally support him and help him destroy the Galactic Republic." "But why?" Grievous questioned. "Because what they want is a general who is absolutely loyal, cold-blooded, and as precise and efficient as a machine. Not a general who is cunning, cruel, elusive, and has the highest reputation among the Kali people," Darth Maul explained. "However, as I understand, there is no absolute loyalty in this universe. Anyone who demands absolute loyalty will eventually be betrayed by it." Palpatine was also the mastermind behind the scenes. More than 10 years ago, they were already planning this war. The establishment of the Galactic Empire was the culmination of countless conspiracies, General Grievous said perceptively, understanding the situation. "Then what do you want?" General Grievous asked. A twisted and ferocious smile appeared on the corner of Darth Maul's mouth. "I want to destroy all of this. The Galactic Empire, the Confederation of Independent Systems, Palpatine, Count Dooku. They should all perish." "What do you want from me?" General Grievous asked again. "Do what you will," Darth Maul replied. Without another word, General Grievous pulled his tattered cloak over his face, turned around, and left without hesitation, not uttering a single unnecessary word. Chapter 1921, Spark, 18. "Then what should I call you in the future? General Kimin Jai Halal?" Darth Maul asked, watching General Grievous's retreating figure. "I am Grievous, and this is my choice," General Grievous replied before quickly disappearing into the shadows. The intelligence department of the Principality of Dawn had already arranged for his departure on a shuttle to his desired destination. A sneer appeared on the corner of Darth Maul's mouth. "Yes, to the subplanet of Laxus. Go to Count Dooku. Then, do what you want. Revenge, Count Dooku. This time, we truly say farewell forever," Darth Maul murmured coldly. "As long as you are alive, separatism will always be separatism. Only when you die will separatism truly turn into a prairie fire." He sheathed his lightsaber and walked outside. General Grievous would become a sharp blade, a blade that belonged to him, and the first target this blade would pierce was Count Dooku. This was not only to ignite that spark, but also to prevent Count Dooku from dying at the hands of Palpatine. Being killed by General Grievous and being killed by Palpatine had completely different political implications for the Galactic Empire. Once Count Dooku was killed by General Grievous, the Clone War, which had lasted for 6 years, would never have a happy ending for Palpatine. He could never end the war and eliminate the leader to add glory to his throne. And when the time came, the great achievements that Palpatine flaunted with the surrender of the Dawn Principality would no longer exist. The galaxy would move to a new stage from then on. And it wasn't over yet. because there was another person who participated in the murder of Grievous and transformed him into a cold-blooded and ruthless robot general, the president of the Interstellar Banking Association, Thornhill. Sanseer would never have dreamed that Darth Malthael had already planted a deadly sharp knife on the planet Kali behind him. Yes, the Interstellar Banking Association controlled the economic lifeline of the Principality of Dawn and the Separatists, but Darth Malthael controlled their jugular arteries. Of course, Tang Xiao would not touch Sanghill now, but in his plan, that day was not far away. The Sith infiltrator Red Comet left the moon of Nar Shaddaa and entered hyperspace towards the planet Dawn. There, the patriarch of the Tag family, Sonya Tag, who had been trained by Tang Xiao to be obedient, was taking off her clothes and kneeling in his office, waiting. After Tang Xiao returned to the office, he saw her slender body shivering in the cold air. It seemed that Adele Ulan had turned off the temperature control system, as Tang Xiao had ordered before. She was already very unhappy with this woman who was occupying her husband, and now that she had the opportunity, she would not be polite. In front of Sonya Tag was a plate of food and drinks that were exquisite and rich but cold. It seemed that this was the frozen meal that Sonya Tag had eaten in the past 2 days. Despite the ambient temperature being around 15 degrees, Sonya Tag was still freezing. Tang Xiao stepped forward and gently stroked Sonya Tag's silky red hair, his hands feeling cold. She was still trembling, especially when she saw Tang Xiao walking slowly. She didn't even dare to breathe. Tang Xiao grabbed her hair, slowly lifted her up, and then gently stroked her delicate skin with the back of his hand. Despite her looking only 20 or 30 years old due to the best care methods, this was originally a very gentle action. However, wherever the back of his hand passed, Sonya Tag's body continued to tremble as if being electrocuted. "I asked you not to move from here. Have you been obedient?" Tang Xiao asked calmly. Yes. Sonya Tag nodded quickly. "Then why, when I see this plate of food, has it been touched?" Tang Xiao glanced at the food placed in front of Sonya Tag, and his tone gradually became cold. Sonya Tag's face turned pale. Sonya Tag's face was full of horror. She looked up at Tang Xiao, her yes filled with despair. Tang Xiao picked up the plate of frozen food, glanced at it, and sneered. "It seems you still think it's warm here." With a wave of his hand, he set the thermostat to below 0. Then, he grabbed Sonya Tag's hair, threw her to the ground, and walked up with a grin. "Now, today's treatment can begin." After a grueling session that seemed to last forever, Tang Xiao stood aside, observing Sonya Tag, who lay sprawled on the ground, her expression filled with endless fear and deep despair. He coldly remarked, "Mark your calendar. The next treatment is in a month." Hearing the word treatment, Sonya Tag's almost numb eyes trembled again, clearly terrified of what was to come. "Will this treatment cure the poison in my body?" she asked slowly, her tone devoid of hope. Tang Xiao smiled devilishly. "Your treatment will continue forever. Even death is not the end. Your body and soul belong to me, and I will never tire of making you fall into endless pain." "I will always belong to you, my master," Sonya Tag murmured. She forced a smile, but tears fell from the corners of her eyes. Tang Xiao asked calmly, "Have you found the person who poisoned you?" "Almond Tag and Silas Tag," Sonya Tag replied, her eyes filled with despair. "It seems they can't wait to inherit the Tag family," Tang Xiao said coldly. "You know what you need to do, right?" "Why?" Sonya Tag looked up at Tang Xiao. "What do you want? For 3 years, you have treated me without making any demands. For you, aside from the family, I am willing to give you everything I have." Tang Xiao sneered. "I'm just a little interested in you. I will charge for your treatment and cooperate with your actions so you can continue to take this rare poison without anyone suspecting. Let your eldest son and third son always think you are still suffering from the poison. As for your family..." An unpredictable smile appeared on his face. "Even if I don't make any demands on you, the Tag family will surrender to me sooner or later." Chapter 1922, Spark. Sonya Tag lay on the cold floor of Tang Yao's office for another full hour before she found the strength to stand up. With trembling hands, she put on her luxurious clothes one by one. Soon, a graceful, gorgeous, and charming lady appeared once more. She was Sonya Tag, the matriarch of the Tag family, one of the wealthiest families in the galaxy. She controlled immense wealth, countless industries, numerous companies, and even a formidable fleet of 5,000 small and medium-sized warships. With such vast power, her commanding presence and natural majesty were undeniable, often causing others to bow before her. Her beauty, maintained with cutting-edge technology and the rarest materials, belied her nearly 50 years of age and the fact that she was a mother of 5. Her delicate and beautiful face, firm skin, and slim, high-quality figure made her look as youthful as women in their 20s or 30s. If anything, her mature charm and astonishingly ample bosom set her apart. In any setting, Sonia Tag was the center of attention. Her beauty, grace, and demeanor attracted countless admirers, and the immense power of the Tag family made her even more unattainable. However, the Tag family's vast wealth and power came at a high cost. Sonia had lost almost all her direct relatives in various dark and brutal struggles during her youth. Some were killed by others, and some by her own hand. This left her, despite her power, somewhat isolated. Although she had 5 children, in such a family, children could be the greatest threat. When Sonia discovered she had a strange disease causing her heart to grow abnormally, she had to seek help outside the family. This was the tragedy of such a wealthy lineage. Her biggest mistake, however, was coming to Tang Xiao alone. From Sonia's perspective, her choice made sense. She suspected her illness was caused by someone within her family and was cautious even when seeking medical treatment, fearing deeper conspiracies. Tang Xiao seemed a perfect choice because the Principality of Dawn had no connection with the Tag family. They hadn't participated in the Clone Wars, except for her second son, Cassio Tag, who sought glory. Tang Xiao's other identity as the powerful Sith Lord, Death Angel, was a top secret of the Galactic Empire. However, with Sonia's status, it wasn't difficult to uncover this information. Tang Xiao being the Death Angel was an open secret among the galaxy's elite. Moreover, Sonia knew about the subtle relationship between the Principality of Dawn and the Galactic Empire. She believed she could entice Tang Xiao with enough benefits, as there was no prior relationship between them, allowing her to discuss money directly. The Tag family had wealth in abundance, enough to attract even the Principality of Dawn's attention. Of course, there were other options, such as Palpatine. While Sonia believed he could cure her strange disease, Palpatine, as the Emperor of the Galactic Empire, couldn't be tempted by any price she could offer. Thus, discussing money with the seemingly terrifying Death Angel seemed the safest bet. Sonia Tag didn't come unprepared. She had given herself strong psychological hints and built a robust mental defense before arriving. This was a common practice among top dignitaries, as it helped them maintain composure in high-stakes situations. Tang Xiao's intentions were far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. He was a Sith Lord, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He didn't need to break through Sonia Tag's psychological defenses or use the Force to alert Emperor Palpatine. His motives were not driven by profit or political gain. He simply wanted to turn a woman as noble as a goddess into his personal toy. The Tag family was immensely powerful, and winning them over would undoubtedly strengthen the Dawn Principality. However, Tang Xiao had no interest in this. He understood that a family of such stature would have numerous safeguards to prevent their leader from being controlled, which could lead to the family's collapse. His focus was solely on breaking Sonia Tag's defenses and making her his own, without involving the Tag family in any way. Tang Xiao knew that rushing things would be counterproductive. The Principality of Dawn was not yet in a position to absorb the Tag family, and the galaxy's political landscape was not conducive to such a move. Forcing a gap in Sonia Tag's defenses would only provoke a backlash from the Tag family, leading to endless troubles. As for Sonia Tag, Tang Xiao had all the means to destroy her will. He subjected her to a mix of pleasure and desire, intertwined with endless pain and torture. Over 3 years, no matter how strong her will was, she could only become Tang Xiao's slave. With his control over the force of death, he could make her experience death countless times. Additionally, with Cassio Tag serving as the fleet commander under Volgograd Kennedy in the model sector, Tang Xiao believed the Tag family was gradually falling into his grasp. Whether it took 10 years or 20, it didn't matter. It was all worth it. With Tang Xiao's help, Sonia Tag finally identified the person who contracted the strange disease, her first heir and eldest son, Ormond Tag. The person controlling the Tag family was Silas Tag, the third son, who was involved in several scientific research companies. It was foreseeable that Sonia Tag, who did not die mysteriously before the Clone War ended, as in the original plot, would cause a bloody storm within the Tag family. Tang Xiao stood to benefit from the ensuing chaos. Palpatine could never have imagined that one of the largest wealthy families under the Galactic Empire would approach the Principality of Dawn in such an unexpected way. Chapter 1923, Battle of 16 BBY, September 7th, Outer Rim Territories, eastern boundary of the Milky Way, planet Felucia. More than a dozen Imperial-class Star Destroyers, accompanied by 5 Cheer-class assault landing ships, emerged on the periphery of Felucia, deploying a vast number of Galactic Empire stormtroopers to the planet's surface. An extremely brutal ground invasion was unfolding. The Galactic Empire had committed over 300,000 troops to this battle, all of whom were 3-year-old Sparty clone troopers. These stormtroopers were equipped with the latest generation of polymer alloy armor. Compared to the armor used by the Galactic Republic during the Clone Wars, this new armor offered superior protection and included power assistance functions for the user. The fully enclosed helmets featured a global communication system, multi-band detection system, tactical assistance system, and other advanced functionalities. This advanced armor bridged the combat capability gap between the Sparty clone troopers and the Camino clone troopers, enabling them to defeat enemies with fewer troops, much like the clone troopers of the Galactic Republic during the Clone Wars. However, Felucia was different. It was one of the core planets of the Confederacy of Independent Systems and had once been the headquarters of the Commerce Guild. The planet boasted strong defenses and a significant military presence. Even after the disbandment of the Commerce Guild, Felucia remained a crucial planet within the Confederacy. In addition to the military forces left behind by the former Commerce Guild, Felucia was home to various smugglers and gangs. The most notable among them was the spice smuggling gang of the Pike people. The Pikes, based on Felucia, ran a large spice business and were secret collaborators in the spice smuggling operations of the Principality of Dawn. They had also received a substantial amount of weapons and equipment from the planet Dawn. After Darth Vader led the fleet to capture the planet Saleucami, he divided his massive fleet into numerous squadrons, launching simultaneous attacks on many planets within the Confederacy's territory. However, unlike the attack on Saleucami, the Imperial fleet refrained from using direct orbital bombardment to clear the way. Instead, they advanced through ground assaults, attempting to persuade those who could surrender to do so, and engaging in ground battles with those who resisted. Darth Vader, commanding the army, understood that continuous orbital bombardment would likely prolong the conflict, potentially taking 3 or 4 years to defeat the Confederacy. Moreover, relentless orbital bombardment could drive neutral planets to fight to the end out of fear. Therefore, unless the Imperial fleet could obliterate all the thousands of galaxies controlled by the Confederacy, political considerations had to be taken into account. Orbital bombardment was not a simple task. A formation of Imperial-class Star Destroyers required an enormous amount of energy to devastate a planet's surface. Often, after destroying a planet, the fleet needed immediate resupply, making it difficult to participate in subsequent battles. Conversely, while ground invasions also demanded significant supplies, the ground troops could be replenished, and the Star Destroyers could provide support from above. If the Star Destroyers were incapacitated, the ground troops would be left vulnerable. Thus, ground battles were now erupting on dozens of planets, with the Imperial forces striving to secure their objectives through a combination of persuasion and force. At the same time, events were unfolding under such dire circumstances. A large number of TIE LN fighter jets streaked across the sky, delivering devastating blows to any Confederacy of Independent Systems fighter formations that dared to take off. After seizing air superiority, the Galactic Empire's fighter formations covered the bombers, which began to bomb the ground in relentless waves. Despite the ongoing war, many pieces of equipment, from the Galactic Republic period were still in use, even as the Galactic Empire began upgrading its arsenal. Thus, the battlefield during this period saw a mix of arms and equipment from different eras working in tandem. In the sky, TIE-LN fighter jets collaborated with V-19 Alpha Holy Light fighters. The TIE-LN fighters, with their numerical and maneuverability advantages, sliced through enemy formations, allowing the V-19 fighters to deliver decisive blows. On the ground, AV-7 self-propelled artillery provided continuous fire suppression. Meanwhile, ATE walkers advanced, using their back-mounted howitzers to extend artillery fire. Flanking the ATTs were ATST bipedal walkers and 1H Imperial-class tanks. Later, the towering 20-meter-high AT-AT armored transport walkers joined the fray, using their height to unleash powerful turbo-laser cannon fire on enemy positions while deploying stormtroopers to the front lines. However, the treatment of these various pieces of equipment differed. Weapons and equipment from the Galactic Republic era had largely been discontinued and were used as disposable assets. Once damaged, they were often beyond repair and discarded. Gradually, the Republic-era equipment was phased out, making way for the Empire's more advanced arsenal. On the planet Felucia, the Imperial Army faced significant challenges. The dense jungles provided perfect cover for the cunning and ruthless Confederate robot army. The terrain rendered fighter bombing ineffective and made it difficult for bulky walkers like the ATTE to traverse. In such conditions, the 4 long legs of the AT-8 walkers proved to be the best means of advancing. The Imperial commander deployed numerous AT-walkers, using their height to target the hidden Confederate robot troops from above. Breaching the jungle defenses would allow the Imperial Army to attack Felucia's capital, Quaitio. However, boom, 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 several powerful laser cannons fired, exploding at the feet of an AT-AT. The blasts were so strong that the AT-AT's long legs wobbled. Before the driver could react, more laser shots were fired, severing the AT-AT's legs and causing the massive walker to collapse. Emerging from the jungle were terrifying robots, approximately 3.5 meters tall, with a simple yet menacing design. Mounted on their frames were twin heavy laser cannons, and they advanced on 4 sharp, chelicera-like mechanical legs. Their bright red electronic eyes rotated, locking onto their targets. "It's the Scorpionek droids," a stormtrooper officer shouted. "Kill them first! Quick!" Before he could finish his command, the Scorpionek droids. The powerful twin-mounted heavy laser cannon opened fire again, striking another AT-AT walker. Despite their ability to traverse rugged terrain, the long legs of the AT-ATs are quite fragile. Under the relentless bombardment, the legs gave way, and the entire walker collapsed. In retaliation, the AT-AT walker fired back. The turbo-laser cannon, mounted on its rotatable head, aimed at one of the Scorpion Annihilator robots and unleashed a volley. Boom! After the violent explosion, the Scorpion Annihilator robot emerged unscathed, protected by a deflector shield. However, another nearby AT walker turned and fired, finally destroying the Scorpion Annihilator robot. But there were at least 5 more Scorpion Annihilators advancing. Alongside these formidable robots, more B-1 combat robots and B-2 super combat robots launched counterattacks. Standing at 3.5 meters tall, the Scorpion Annihilator robots, though not very agile in such a complex environment, were still more maneuverable than the ATTE walkers. To break through the jungle defense line quickly, the Galactic Empire Army had left behind the ATE walkers, which were unsuitable for jungle operations. However, the current battle proved that even the newly equipped AT-8 walkers struggled against the Scorpion Annihilator robots. "Fire! Fire!" a clone trooper shouted, launching an anti-tank missile at a Scorpion Annihilator robot. Boom! The Scorpion reacted swiftly, intercepting the missile with a single shot. It then turned its muzzle and fired several shots at the clone soldiers. After the violent explosion, none of the stormtroopers in that small group survived. The remaining stormtroopers fought while retreating, their blaster rifle firepower completely ineffective against the deflector shields of the Scorpion Annihilator robots. Under the leadership of the Scorpion Annihilator robots, the Confederacy of Independent Systems robot army pushed back the Galactic Empire's stormtroopers. The tide turned only when a group of Y-wing bombers from the Galactic Republic era swooped down, targeting the Scorpion Annihilator robots with concussive missiles and destroying them. The Imperial stormtroopers had to halt their advance, mobilizing ATE walkers and AV-7 self-propelled artillery to cover the jungle with a new round of firepower. They awaited reinforcements, including the Imperial 1 Class H heavy suspension tank, to launch a further attack. In the battle to capture the planet Felucia, the newly emerged Scorpion Annihilator robots from the Confederacy of Independent Systems inflicted heavy losses on the Imperial Army. According to intelligence from the Galactic Empire, the Scorpion Annihilator combat robot is an extremely efficient super combat robot developed by Pike scientists. It is an upgraded version of the Destroyer robot commonly seen in the previous Independent Galaxy Confederacy Robot Legion, equipped with a deflector shield and chelicerae-like mechanical feet. Utilizing the latest technology, the Scorpion Annihilator robot boasts fierce firepower. In actual combat, the ATE walker cannot withstand its firepower and is destroyed in just a few shots. The current battle also demonstrated that even AT walkers are vulnerable. Despite being only a 3.5-meter tall, medium-sized robot, the Scorpion Annihilator excels in both offense and defense, though it lacks significant mobility. The Scorpion Annihilator robot can't even curl up into a ball to maneuver quickly like the Destroyer robot. It can only crawl slowly, bit by bit, with a speed of about 20 kilometers per hour. If the road conditions are favorable, it can manage up to 40 kilometers per hour, which is its maximum limit. The Scorpion Annihilator robot is considered one of the super battle robots built by the Confederation of Independent Systems in the late stages of the war, in hopes of turning the tide. It is a masterpiece of robotics technology. After this robot was introduced, it also caught the attention of the Principality of Dawn. Tang Xiao secretly ordered some Scorpion Annihilator robots from the Parkers through Niang Xiao's connections. As the leader of the official gang organization that smuggles and sells spices in the Principality of Dawn, Niang Xiao has a good relationship with the Pike people, who are also involved in the spice business. The Milky Way market is vast, and there is no competitive relationship between the two sides. Instead, they share common interests and often collaborate in business. However, the production of this robot is very limited. To date, the number of Scorpion Annihilator robots delivered for use has not exceeded 1,000. The Principality of Dawn managed to acquire about 150 units, while most of the rest are deployed on the core planets of the Federation of Independent Systems, such as Felucia and Laxus. Soon, the 1H heavy suspension tanks transferred from the rear were deployed on the battlefield. Under the cover of the 1H tanks, the Galactic Empire stormtroopers began to advance again. The Mk4E heavy laser cannon, equipped with the 1H heavy tank, finally posed a threat to the Scorpion Annihilator robot. The latest ground armor units of the two warring parties can be considered rivals. To reduce the threat of the Scorpion Annihilator robots, the Galactic Empire Army increased the Air Force's sorties. Once a Scorpion Annihilator was spotted, bombers would immediately take off to destroy it. Faced with the threat from the Air Force, the slow-moving Scorpion Annihilator robot was ultimately powerless. After more than a week of offensive and defensive battles at the outer jungle defense line, the Galactic Empire finally broke into the capital of the planet Felucia. In fact, after the outer defense line was breached, the forces of the Confederacy of Independent Systems in the capital city of Covidio were already stretched thin, and it was only a matter of time before the capital fell. However, in the jungle where sporadic fighting was still taking place, a dark figure stood on a branch, coldly observing the Imperial army passing below. Buzz! The blood-red lightsaber ignited. The figure seemed to turn into a black mist and rushed towards the soldiers below. Enemy attack! The stormtrooper soldiers reacted quickly, raising their guns and firing. But the dense blaster beams from their rifles passed through the black mist as if it were intangible. The black mist reached the stormtrooper formation, and the lightsaber slashed down directly. Buzz! 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 Wherever it passed, the bodies of the Imperial stormtroopers were sliced open like butter. Chapter 1924, Death. An entire Imperial combat team, consisting of more than 40 clone troopers and 2 TX-130 saber tanks, was annihilated without a sound. The scene was a grim tableau of burning tank wreckage and the torn corpses of Imperial stormtroopers, a testament to the brutality of the attack. Amidst this hellish landscape, a dark figure moved as if taking a leisurely stroll. Her body was shrouded in a dense black mist, obscuring her true form. As she walked, tendrils of black mist seemed to be drawn from the corpses around her, merging into her own shadowy figure. As the black mist from the corpses of more than 40 Imperial stormtroopers was absorbed, the dark figure's form seemed to become more solid. She let out a terrifying and strange laugh before her body dissolved into mist again, disappearing into the jungle. Meanwhile, as the troops of the Galactic Empire launched an attack on the Felucia capital, Covito, reports of attacks continued to pour in from behind their lines. Many Imperial logistics convoys and reserve forces were ambushed and wiped out, with no survivors left to tell the tale. The chaotic communications and videos sent back from the attack sites provided no clear information about the attacker. Words like ghost, Jedi, and lightsaber only added to the confusion. Darth Vader, who was commanding operations on the planet Ossus, received the news and immediately deduced that the attacker was likely a Dark Jedi who had joined the Confederation of Independent Systems. After the Jedi Order was destroyed, many Jedi who escaped Order 66 fled to the Confederation and joined Count Dooku. As a former highly respected Jedi Master, Count Dooku naturally attracted many followers. Darth Vader dispatched 4 fallen Dark Jedi to the planet Felucia to hunt down the hidden attacker. "No matter who the opponent is, he will be killed without mercy," he declared in his low, terrifying voice, accompanied by the heavy breathing of his respirator. The 4 Dark Jedi warriors knelt on one knee and responded with great respect, "As you wish, my lord." Darth Vader looked down at the 4 warriors. He knew all of them from their time in the Jedi Order. Even if they had not interacted closely, their names were familiar. But now, their paths had diverged completely, and their identities had changed. Darth Vader remembered that one of the Twi'lek Jedi Masters, Jovi Kratfunk, had once taught him some details of the 5th lightsaber form when he was still Anakin Skywalker. Naturally, these Dark Jedi warriors did not know that the figure standing before them was the former Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker. They had surrendered to the terrifying power of the Sith Lord named Darth Vader, under the influence of the dark side. With the galaxy now divided among several Sith Lords and the power of the dark side at its peak, these Jedi warriors had finally abandoned the light and embraced the darkness. There were now 4 Sith Lords in the galaxy: Darth Sidious, Darth Vader, Darth Malthael, and Darth Lilim. Darth Vader's ascension to Sith Lord was part of an agreement between Darth Malthael and Darth Sidious. Darth Malthael had recorded Darth Vader in the Book of Sith, recognizing him as part of the Sith lineage, the inheritance of the Sith Lord of Bane. This acknowledgement was a favor sold twice, once to Darth Sidious and once to Darth Vader. However, what others did not yet know was that there was a 5th Sith Lord, Darth Tenebris, Shen Jon. Before his death, Darth Tenebris had passed on his Sith inheritance. To Shen Jon, he paid the price with his life for it. Therefore, the current Jon Shen is Darth Tenebris. This information naturally appeared in the Book of Sith and was learned by Darth Malthael. However, he did not share this knowledge with Darth Sidious or others. For many surviving Jedi, the current situation in the galaxy is clear. The dark side has finally triumphed, and the light side they once believed in has utterly failed. In such despair, it is inevitable that more Jedi Knights would eventually fall. These 4 Dark Jedi warriors succumbed to the terrifying power of Darth Vader's dark side without even daring to show any disrespect. They immediately set off towards the planet Felucia. At this moment on Felucia, a dark shadow known as the Night Demon has been wreaking havoc for some time. Thousands of Imperial stormtroopers have perished at her hands. To avoid further losses, the commander of Felucia had to order a suspension of the attack on the planet's capital, Covito. Despite this, some military bases of the Galactic Empire continued to be attacked. Through surveillance in the base, the Empire finally gathered some information about the Night Demon. This entity, almost entirely composed of black mist, seemed to have no physical form. Even when hit by a blaster beam, it remained unaffected as the beam passed right through it. It truly resembled a ghost and could wield a lightsaber. Its swordsmanship was erratic and instinctive, yet extremely fast and adept at avoiding vital points, much like a cunning beast. What made the Night Demon even more terrifying was that after killing someone, more black mist would emerge from the victim and be absorbed by the Night Demon, undoubtedly strengthening it. Faced with such an opponent, the Imperial army was almost helpless. The Imperial commander began planning to use battleship orbital bombardment to deal with this terrible monster, but then received news that 4 Dark Jedi had come to assist. Upon their arrival, the Imperial commander helped the Dark Jedi set a trap. They sent a small armored force, pretending to deliver supplies, through the jungle to the city of Covitio. As they set off, they deliberately fired cannons in the jungle, destroying trees and vegetation along the way to attract the attention of the Night Demon. The 4 Dark Jedi hid in a 1H heavy suspension tank, waiting for the right moment to strike. Their plan succeeded. In the dark jungle, a shrill scream suddenly pierced the silence of the forest. Wah! A Dark Jedi Knight clutched his arm, severed from the shoulder, and screamed loudly. On the other side, 3 Dark Jedi warriors were battling a black mist. This black mist could barely be distinguished as a human form. It swam around in midair, its shape completely elusive. However, in its hand made of black mist, it held a blood-red lightsaber, which it wielded at an incredibly fast speed. The black mist moved with astonishing speed, and because it had no physical form, its movements were completely arbitrary and unpredictable. A Dark Jedi raised his hand and waved, using the powerful force to almost solidify the air around the Night Demon. After locking its movement, he stabbed out with his lightsaber. However, at that moment, the Night Demon's body dissipated instantly. The lightsaber remained in place, held by a hand made of black mist, while another part of the black mist appeared behind the Dark Jedi. Poof! The black mist's claws pierced directly through his chest. The Dark Jedi looked at the claws that had penetrated from behind in disbelief, a large puff of blood spurting from his mouth. Simultaneously, the Night Demon held a lightsaber in its other hand and instantly pierced the face of the second Dark Jedi. His entire body convulsed as he fell to the ground, lifeless. The Dark Jedi warrior's head was immediately burned beyond recognition by the intense heat of the lightsaber. The last remaining Dark Jedi warrior, realizing the dire situation, attempted to flee, but was quickly ensnared by the black mist. The mist wrapped around him, pouring into his mouth, nose, and ears. In mere moments, the Dark Jedi warrior was reduced to a mummified husk. From the dried corpse, the black mist erupted, coalescing into a humanoid shape in the air. The mist now appeared almost solid, with faintly discernible facial features. Witnessing this horrifying scene, the Dark Jedi warrior who had lost his arm at the beginning of the battle was paralyzed with fear. His terrified expression became his final mark on the world as the black mist decapitated him with a swift stroke of a sword. The battle was lost, and 4 noble Dark Jedi had sacrificed their lives. The Imperial commander stationed on Felucia was nearly paralyzed with fear upon receiving this news. In a panic, he ordered an orbital bombardment. An Imperial-class Star Destroyer unleashed its cannons towards the jungle, causing a massive explosion and engulfing the area in flames. However, the officer soon realized that the bombardment might endanger his own military base. Regretting his hasty decision, he quickly ordered a halt to the bombardment and reported the situation to his superiors. The following day, a Lambda-class shuttle arrived on Felucia and docked with the fleet's flagship. As the shuttle's door opened, a squad of clone soldiers in blue and white combat armor emerged, lining up on either side. Then, a menacing figure clad in black appeared in the doorway, with a black helmet, mask, armor, and cloak, and a life support device on his chest emitting a flashing indicator light. The figure's heavy breathing resonated from the respirator. It was Darth Vader. The Imperial Army commander hurriedly led his command team to the hangar platform to greet him. They stiffly raised their hands in salute, their fear palpable. "Lord, that Night Demon," the commander began, but before he could finish, an invisible force gripped his neck. Not only him, but all the commanders present were choked by Darth Vader's dark side power and lifted off the ground. "I gave you 4 people. Is this the answer you give me?" Darth Vader's voice was cold and menacing. The commander and his officers struggled desperately, their faces turning purple as they suffocated. Darth Vader watched them impassively as their struggles weakened and they eventually died. With a wave of his hand, the corpses were flung aside, landing in a disordered heap. "Substitute," Darth Vader commanded, then turned back to the shuttle. "I'll deal with that Night Stalker." The clone soldiers in blue and white armor began cleaning up the bodies, and the Imperial Army swiftly followed military protocol. The positions of the deceased senior officers were promptly filled, and the chain of command was restored efficiently. It was as if the death of the entire command team was a mere inconvenience. Meanwhile, the Lambda-class shuttle hovered over the burning jungle. After a thorough scan, it positioned itself above a specific area. The hatch opened, and Darth Vader leaped from an altitude of over 1,000 meters. He landed with a thunderous impact, the force of his descent extinguishing the flames around him. Charred sand and dust were sent flying, dispersed by an invisible force. In all directions, the earth was torn apart, and flames raged fiercely. It all seemed to set the stage for the man standing in the middle of the inferno. A blood-red lightsaber appeared in Darth Vader's hand as he stood there, looking across the fiery expanse. There, an unexpected figure emerged, a man shrouded in black mist. "I know you," Darth Vader said slowly. "Heh! I know you too," the figure in the black mist replied with an eerie, illusory laugh. "Anakin Skywalker." The arrogant, stupid, reckless, and impulsive Anakin Skywalker is long dead. "Master Adi Gallia, I'm afraid you have the wrong person." Darth Vader's voice was extremely low and menacing. "Adi Gallia has also died a long time ago, in fact," the figure said gloomily. "Among the rotten walking corpses, a brand new existence was born, the God of Death. Anakin Skywalker, I attended your funeral, although there was no body. But now, I'm afraid you are not qualified for another funeral," Darth Vader retorted. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand. The endless flames around him seemed to come alive, controlled by his will, and swept towards the God of Death, enveloping him in a sea of fire. The God of Death waved his lightsaber, carving a path through the inferno with sheer force. But at that moment, a black figure suddenly appeared behind the wall of flames, wielding a blood-red lightsaber that was descending in a deadly arc. Obi-Wan episodes. "Darth Vader, you're talking nonsense. Obviously, you can't even jump over a small fire.